Troubling you. To take your privilege, but I also need some privilege. Other I'll be just looking down only, hardly looking at you all. That too after yesterday's very powerful, enthusiastic Rath Yatra. Devotees are tired. The number shows it also. Plus change and all that. One devotee made a comment also. Why not give rest to devotees? I said our rest is with being with Krishna. Then he was not speaking anything. So just when I was coming for this class in the washroom, my brother called me up, and so I was in hurry because I had to reach here at 10:30. So then he said, "I'm remembering mother a lot, feeling restlessness." She left on Sharad Purnima day, less than a year back. So I said, "Okay, but then I have a class now. I have to rush like that." He said, "Okay, I will call at 12 o'clock." I said, "No, 12 o'clock also I have class." In 2:30, I said, "No, that time also I have class." So then I said, "I have three consecutive classes, one after the other. So call me at 4 o'clock." So why I'm saying this? Because this chapter that we are going to discuss, 29th chapter of the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, this can help us a lot in regard to the problem he is facing, which I also do face sometimes in remembrance of my mother. Mother is very important in our life. Someone very close physically, who has given birth. In fact, more than father, many times child is close to mother only. Can identify with her a lot. She gives a lot of mental support, physical nurture, everything she does. So this talks between Narada and King Prachani Bhari. 29th chapter is the last chapter in this series, and is kind of summarizing, giving us in-depth understanding of how to get rid of this problem of identifying with the body and the torture that we get thereby. Not only in identification with mine, my mother, my wife, my child, my this, my that. More important that my is I. I am this, I am that. In fact, because I am the child of my mother, that's why my mother, when she leaves body, creates problem. And so many mothers have left bodies in the world, millions, more than that. But we don't have so much problem because she is not mine. She is not my mother. Because I am the son of my mother, like that. So I is the root cause, and the mine related to it is the second problem then. So that can be overcome by this chapter if we understand, realize by Lord's grace. So we'll discuss it. 20, huh? I was thinking while rushing that he should attend this class, but he will say, "No, I want to hear directly from you in Marathi." Like that. He'll put many conditions. He's my elder brother, 10 years elder. So I cannot give many things. Okay. So I have not gone through the sections. I'll just see that in advance only. I will just see. Maybe side by side we will go. So 1 to 25, it has around 85 verses. First 25 verses is Narada's elaboration on the allegorical story. And in that he says, on the request of Prachani Bhari, Narada explained all the different characters. Prachani Bhari had been spoken these things in 4 chapters by Narad Muni. So then here he is elaborating, Narad Muni, on the request of Prachani Bhari. So Narada's elaboration on the allegorical story, that is 1 to 25. Please repeat the first verse after me. Prachini Bharhiruvacha भगवंस्ते वचोर अस्माभि न सम्यग् अवगम्यते कवयस्तद् विजानन्ति न वयं कर्म मोहितः. So 85 verses are there. If you see Prabhupada's purports and all, so around 123 pages are there, which I have to cover in less than 3 hours. So we'll speed up wherever required and hope we complete the chapter. So 1 to 3 is first 3 verses talk about when conditioned, a person understands, person cannot understand the super soul, nor the Lord's names, forms, qualities, or activities. So when the conditioned soul is there, He cannot understand the super soul nor the Lord's names, forms, etc. So he's using the word Bhagavanste Vachurasmabhir. We'll read the translation first. King Prachani Bhari replied, "My dear Lord, we could not appreciate completely the purport of your allegorical story of King Puranjan. Actually, those who are perfect in spiritual knowledge can understand. But for us who are overly attached to fruitive activities, to realize the purpose of your story is very difficult." So he's saying, Asmabhir na samyak avagamyate. So honest, so simple. King Prachini Bari is. He is very well accomplished. As we're hearing in the morning also, that he has performed so many sacrifices that everywhere there was Kushagra spread. So speaking materially, he was king also, emperor. So well accomplished person, but he's so simple also. He's saying what you said, I could not make out. He's clearly saying that. So what is required in spiritual life is simplicity and honesty. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnana sevaya. So that pariprashnana reveals, even for that matter, pranipat also. I surrender to you because you are greater than me. You are more in knowledge. You are free from the illusion. I am not. I am conditioned. So I cannot understand. In fact, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Prabhupada also would say, that in front of the spiritual master, one should consider himself a fool number one. One should not act like a fool, but one should know that I am a fool. I know nothing. So he is saying that very clearly that I could not make out. So please speak in a way I can understand because I'm a conditioned soul. It's like a PhD man speaks on the PhD subject matter. A small child of 10 standard cannot make it out. So he may request, please speak on my level, 10 standard boy level. So I may be able to understand. So that is spiritual life. So because of his this inquiry, Narad Muni will speak more. One gets to hear more when one inquires. That's why it is very important to inquire also. When we ask a question, the person will answer, even if in one word or one line minimum. One gets opportunity to hear more. So that's one gets more association of great souls. So that's why one should inquire, and honestly one should inquire also, like that genuine difficulties of spiritual life should be revealed, and then one will get help. I will not read all the shlokas. I will go ahead with the translations only. But the first word in the second verse is Purusham, Puranjanam Vidyat. The great sage Narad Muni continued, "You must understand that Puranjan, the living entity, transmigrates according to his own work into different types of bodies, which may be one legged, two legged, three legged, four legged, many legged, or simply legless. Transmigrating into these various types of bodies, the living entity, as the so called enjoyer, is known as Puranjan." So, who is Puranjan? The living entity. Who is transmigrating in different bodies. What types of bodies? That is mentioned here only. One leg, two leg, three leg, four leg, many leg or whatever. And no legs only. So what is one-legged? Prabhupada explains in the purport. The word ekapada, one-legged, refers to ghosts. For it is said that ghosts walk on one leg. Many of us have seen in the movies at least, or serials maybe. So that ghost, he is like having head, some kind of torso is there up to waist torso, so called, and then it is like this. Though it goes quite pointed. I don't know what to call. Could we call it as one leg? But it is like that. Huh? Could be so. Yeah, they might be knowing from the Puranas and all that because these descriptions are there. So ghost is one-legged, and then Dvipad, biped, refers to human beings. When he is old and invalid, the human being is supposed to be a triped. Why? Or three-legged, because he walks with the help of a stick or some kind of cane. A nice explanation. I was thinking, what is the three-legged animal? Do we have some experience? Some animal, bird? No, we don't have three-legged person. Always, two, four, like that. Even numbers, not odd numbers. So, but in the old age, we are three-legged, like that. Third verse. So this Purusha, the first word, no, Purusham Purunjana Vidyat. One should know that Purusha, the living entity who is trying to enjoy, who is the conditioned soul, who is transmigrating from one body to another, he is that Puranjan. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that refers to the Jiva. Next, third verse, translation. The person I have described as unknown is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master and eternal friend of the living entity. Since the living entities cannot realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead by material names, activities, or qualities, he remains everlastingly unknown to the conditioned soul. So the word was avigyata. In the beginning of the story, that word had come. Avigyat means unknown. So who is that unknown? He is the super soul, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the Lord. Unknown means the Lord. So his activities, name, fame, qualities, pastime, etc., cannot be realized by a mundaner. So he remains everlastingly unknown to the conditioned soul. Puranjan is conditioned soul, so he could not know him. But afterwards, by his grace, by serving him, even Vaidarbhi, Malayada's wife, she could also see him rather. He came in the form of a Brahmin. So if we become self-realized, no more remain like a Puranjan, conditioned soul, then we can know the super soul. In fact, that Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, where he says, somebody said, I think, जितात्मनः प्रशान्तस्य परमात्मा समाहितः शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयो. Those who have control, or one who has controlled his mind and senses, for him super soul is already reached, and the symptoms of such a person who has reached super soul is chitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha manapamanayo. Correct. So shita ushna is on the gross body level. We can see that now we are sweating. I think, I don't know, maybe my conditioned body, so sweating. So shita, maybe it's a dukkha or whatever you call. Then some sukha is also there. So that's a gross body sukha dukkha. But sorry, shita ushna, and the mind feels sukha dukkha. Now in the mind we feel sukha, and the same condition somebody else may not find it sukha. He may find it misery. Like, I don't know, somebody was telling recently, I forgot what he was telling. I don't want to be there, something like that. What other devotees feel very nice, the other person doesn't like. So sukha dukkha is on the platform of mind. It's a mental status. And man apaman on the false ego platform. So it is worst or most difficult. That's why he's saying Shitoshna Sukha Dukkheshu Tatha Manapamanayo. Krishna is the most perfect speaker. He cannot commit any mistake. That's why he's step by step going. So first and foremost, for us to be able to get over or get rid of this Shita Ushna platform. That's why Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, after revealing the identity of the soul, he begins Bhagavad Gita by saying, we are not bodies, we are spirits. Next teaching is Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya. In 12.13 also he says, Dehinosmin Yathade. Next immediately says, Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya. Tam Stitikshaswa Bharata. Tolerate. Nothing can be done. Material world is Dukhalem. That means Shita Ushna is compulsory. On the gross physical platform also. So just tolerate. So that's where we all could work as sadhakas, practitioners, to see how much we are able to tolerate Shita and Ushna. I'm not saying that we should not make arrangements, but at least mind should not get carried away. Sometimes we feel too much disturbed, so much Shita Ushna. And Sukha Dukkha. Maybe he was explaining that mosquito net example. Mosquito bit me because mosquito net was not there. So biting, so many difficulties are there in life, which are, we can't do anything about it. So just tolerate. So one can know the super soul. Okay, that is third. Fourth. So 4 to 20 is speaking about, describe some of the elements of Narad Muni's allegory. Narad Muni is only describing. So in the fourth particularly, he says living entities preferred forms. I think Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says two. One is human body and the second is demigod's body. These are living entities preferred forms, like that. Like we have some understanding of demigod body. So if we are told you have choice to accept demigod body, we'll say, yeah, very good. It's provided here on earth with devotees practicing Krishna consciousness. Because those bodies will not emit this sweat and other disturbances won't be there like that. About there also we may like it, but we are scared of Apsaras, Nandan Kanan garden and things like that. But otherwise, that is very nice body, demigod body, as far as the morphological structure and everything is concerned, and human beings body. So the fourth translation is, when the living entity wants to enjoy the modes of material nature in their totality, he prefers out of many bodily forms to accept that body which has 9 gates, 2 hands and 2 legs. Thus he prefers to become a human being or a demigod. Tatra, what is that word? Tatra manuta. That means tatra there, amanuta. He thought. So among the bodies of different species like animals, of all the 84 lakh species of life, tatra amunta, sadhu iti. What is sadhu? The best bodies, human being's body and demigod's body. He prefers that. When the living entity wants to enjoy independent of Krishna, he is provided with gross and subtle material bodies. The human body provides full facility for sense enjoyment, although the human body is actually meant to provide facility for the soul to become free from the cycle of endless transmigration. That is the actual purpose. But then conditioned soul will think in terms of sense gratification only. So he feels this body is very good. So human beings body and demigods body, in particular human beings, they generate karma. Demigods, that is bhoga yoni, whatever pious activities one has done, one gets results there in the heavenly planet. But kshine punya martelokam yashanti, again he comes back to the material world. So if human body is very important, if we have misuse our human body, then birth and death cycle continues. So, and then those desires, material desires, cause degradation through action. So desires get formed or reformed in the association of devotees or in any association. Sangat sanjayate kamaha, the kind of association we have, that kind of desires we'll have. So that's how we choose to be with devotees, because devotees are oriented towards Krishna. So we'll have desires to serve Krishna. That will help us. Yes. I have read in purports, but I don't know whether anybody remembers. Miss, if you have read some verse, quote he wants. Purport I have read, but I don't know exactly where. Because there are so many Brahmandas, so even if one is born as a Brahma, he could next time be. So there is enough opportunity to be Brahmas also. In fact, we hear also statement, sometimes not having qualified Brahma, then Lord only takes that form like that. So there is a lot of what do you call vacancies are there. So that way, first time he can come as Brahma. Okay, in the purport, Prabhupada says, I don't have time to read, but around how many times? 9 times Prabhupada talks about desire. He doesn't use necessarily the word desire, but desire word is also there several times. Like if you see the translation only, when the living entity wants to enjoy the modes of material nature, so that comes as desire. He prefers, that means then that is also desire. And then he prefers to become a human being or a demigod. So that is also desire only. Then the first line only, this is a very nice explanation of how the spiritual being, this part and parcel of Krishna, God, accepts a material body. He, by virtue of his own desires, then Prabhupada quotes Ichha Desha Samuthena towards the end of the translation, overcome by the dualities of desire and hate. Next paragraph beginning, originally the living entity is a spiritual being, but when he actually desires to enjoy this material world, he comes down. Then third verse beginning, third paragraph, the desire of the living entity to come into the material world is not very difficult to understand. Then somewhere ahead, all this meat eating, gambling, intoxication, illicit sex, still one may want to enjoy these forbidden things. There is always someone who wants to go to a prostitute for illicit sex or to a hotel to eat meat and drink wine. There is always someone who wants to gamble at nightclubs, enjoy so-called. Then little ahead, the more one desires a degraded life within his heart, the more he falls down to occupy different forms of abominable existence. And quite end. As soon as one desires to enjoy his senses, he puts himself under the control of material energy and automatically or mechanically is placed into the cycle of birth and death in various life forms. So how we can understand how desires are very important. They are the origin of our degradation or elevation. Before the quoting verse, Prabhupada says, unless one is properly trained, he becomes a victim of the modes of material nature. So training is very, very important. All of us have been trained. That's why we have overcome three modes of material nature to whatever degree we have overcome. If we just think of our life before coming to Krishna consciousness, we are so much into modes, so much mood. We are talking so much. So mood is part of mode only, like that. So much. आज मेरा mood नहीं है. आज बहुत अच्छा mood है. So much we are into modes without realizing what modes are and how we are getting kicked by those modes. But now at least we understand that, oh, I was in passion that time. Oh, I was in ignorance that time. All that we realize. And we honestly accept also. So that honest acceptance is the sign of mode of goodness. Understanding that I have these difficulties, I have these shortcomings, I have these faults. So this is the mode of goodness. Realizing. When we are not in that goodness, we are in passion, then we just know who said I was wrong? I was not wrong. We are in the defensive mode, defense, offense or defense. This is passion and ignorance. So one has to overcome them. Offense will be in passion and defense in ignorance also. So one has to come to goodness. And yes, I'm fallen soul, but I want to practice Krishna. I want to achieve Krishna's mercy. I desire to be in the association of devotees. I know it's difficult to be in the association of devotees, difficult to be obedient, but I want to be with them. Then somehow purification will take place. Maybe it will be difficult for me to digest, but no problem. Slowly, at least they're little considerate. They're not immediately expecting me to be pure devotees. So that is great hope, solace for me. So desires are very important. Then the fifth one. The great sage Narada continued, the word pramada mentioned in this regard refers to material intelligence or ignorance. It is to be understood as such. When one takes shelter of this kind of intelligence, he identifies himself with the material body. Influenced by the material consciousness of I and mine, he begins to enjoy and suffer through his senses. Thus, the living entity is entrapped. So, buddhim, to pramada. So, buddhim also refers to ignorance or material intelligence. So, very precisely, it is material intelligence. It can be spiritualized also, which will come later on. Bhungte abhakshabhir gunan. So, by the senses. Akshabhi is by the senses. In the purport, Prabhupada says, in material existence, so-called intelligence is actually ignorance. All our material intelligence is part of ignorance only. Today morning only I was hearing Guru Maharaj lecture, His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj. So all these IIT and NIT and MIT are all the, what he used, are the places of ignorance. Very openly. I don't know who is the audience. 96th lecture. I have made a clip out of it. And the title is Knowledge versus Ignorance. Like that. So very openly Maharaj is saying. I heard in one place, maybe in MIT, I'm not sure which MIT is that. Could be our MIT only, Pune. So there only he spoke, I think. Very open, bold. That is for sure, that is in front of him, all students and college authorities are sitting. And he's saying, it's all ignorance. But certainly he gives the background and all that. Directly, if he makes statement like this, people will feel offended. But this is all ignorance only. Sometimes we are all introduced, somewhere you go. So, the Prabhu has done BTech or MTech from IIT, MIT, NIT, some IT like that. So that is good for the new audience too. But we should feel, Are, that means I have become Jiva ke karaye गधा जड़ विद्या मायार वैभव तोमार भजने बाधा मोह जनमीय अनित्य संसारे जीवो के करये gadha. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has put it exactly, precisely. So that's what we should feel, that I became a bigger and bigger donkey, and I wanted to be biggest donkey. I wanted to do PhD only, and if possible, postdoc also. But then somehow devotees caught me. So that understanding is very important. You can see proper disciples, some of them are not even graduates. They're called dropouts. His Holiness Jayat Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Radhananda Swami Maharaj, and some others. Like there are some scholars also, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu and others, graduates, postdoc, at least doctorate maybe. But they are college dropouts, but they have realized the self. They have realized that they are servants of Krishna, and they are teaching it to others through their personal example, which we cannot reach even by our NIT IIT study. In fact, it could act as big hurdle. Janma Ishwara Shruta Shrivi, Yedamana Madapuman. These four could create big hindrance. That's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying the same thing. Tomara bhajane badha. Like we may chant only, na? I am IIT, I am MIT, I am NIT, NIT, IIT. So that only chanting goes on. False ego. So overcoming false ego is very difficult, toughest, last thing to go. And that is the only thick wall between the soul and super soul. That wall has to be broken. Guru's instructions are capable of breaking that wall, completely able to destroy it once and for all, if we are surrendered to Guru. So Prabhupada saying in material existence, so-called intelligence is actually ignorance. When for preaching, we sometimes do need to have some understanding outside world what is happening and all, but we have to know this is all ignorance only. None of these things are important. In the next creation, they are of no consequence. In fact, not even next creation, after a few years only, it has no value, no discussion. Maharaj, I was hearing in one lecture of Maharaj was speaking about like this is 2022 or so, or 2019 we got COVID. So some 100 years back, something similar, maybe plague was the disease, around 100 years back, isn't it? Started with Europe maybe, and it went on spreading, something like that. Huh? Prominent it was, and how many people got killed? Lot more than what this COVID had done, But then you can say 100 years later, many of us are not even aware. You don't know, plague was there, so many people got killed. So it has no important thing. So sometimes for preaching sake, we may gather some information through internet, through discussion with devotees, but we have to know this is all ignorance only. But because people are in ignorance, so kaate se kata nikalna. So that's what we do. We tell them how much you are in ignorance. You think COVID is a big thing, but material world is dukhalayam, so it had so many difficulties earlier also. Plague was there, and this was there, that was there. So we use the ignorance to take out their ignorance, to remove their ignorance. That's what we have to know. But real knowledge is surrendering to Krishna gets rid of all our difficulties. Then there is no more plague, no more corona or anything of like that sort. Towards the end, Prabhupada says, last line, as long as one thinks that everything belongs to him, he is in material consciousness. And when he knows perfectly that everything belongs to Krishna, he is in Krishna consciousness. Nirashir, nirmamo, bhutva, yuddhasva, vigatachvaraha. Right in the third chapter only, Karma Yoga section only, Krishna is speaking. Nirashir, don't have any material anticipation, any desire. And nirmamo, nothing is mine. Nothing is mine. Like I'm speaking something by knowledge, but that is not my knowledge. Mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna is giving this knowledge. Same knowledge we can forget. We all have experienced somebody's name. We know it, but it is not coming. Sometimes we know also it begins with P only. But what is it? P, Pramod, Prakash. No, not Prakash, not Pramod, something, but with P only. And then he may say some name with P. So we can see Krishna is the source of everything, and everything belongs to him only. Nothing is ours. But one thing is ours. What is it? Desire. Desire is ours. Our body is also not ours. Our intelligence is not ours. Nothing is ours. It's all Krishna's. Only desire is ours. We misused it. That's why we are here. We use it properly. We can go to the world again with Krishna. So this ignorance has to be removed, thinking that this is mine, that is mine. So some of us act as caretakers, leaders, counselors, or whatever of that sort. And so we have to know he is Krishna's, but put under my care. And actually, I'm not qualified. I'm not a good leader. I'm not a good counselor. But Krishna wants me to become humble by trying to show simple, humble behavior as a counselor, leader, while dealing with this devotee, isn't it? Sometimes, no, actually, I'm very fallen. I will not take care of this devotee. I will have bossing tendency. No, you have to take care of him and overcome bossing tendency, because you cannot publish लाया पता है क्या ये मेरा काउंसली है. सुना क्या नहीं सबने? ऐसे बोल सकते हैं कोई? तुरंत उसका काउंसलर पोस्ट से बाहर निकाल देंगे उसको. He cannot be so arrogant, so audacious and all. So he said, no, actually, no. He is great anyway. So we will become humble by accepting the service for the pleasure of superiors. And that is another type of false ego, frustrated false ego and inflated false ego. One has to be careful of the other side also. Inflated false ego is arising from passion, and frustrated false ego is arising from ignorance. So one should not fall prey to any of these false egos. One should act on the true ego platform. Yeah, I'm not qualified, but my superiors wants me to do this service, so I will do it. Like, as long as they want me to do it, and the way they want me to do, I will do that. I will try my best like that. But nothing belongs to me. This is very, very important. This is understood. We can chant very peacefully. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Otherwise, this belongs to me, that belongs to me. I am the leader there. I am the servant here. Servant means in a very materialistic way. I don't want to be servant, but somehow they put me as servant there. So then that all comes in chanting, and between us and Krishna, that false ego creates a thick wall, and then chanting is gone. We cannot see Krishna. We cannot experience Krishna. So acting on our true platform is very important. Mukti ritva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. Giving up all other considerations and acting on the true platform that I am servant of Krishna. I am servant of devotees. So that is the fifth verse talking about material intelligence. That is that, what is the name of that queen? Did she have name? Puranjan's wife? Puranjani, name was not given. Name was not given. Okay, that intelligence. Queen only was referred all throughout. Okay, so that queen, intelligence, material intelligence. Okay, sixth verse. The five working senses and the five senses that acquire knowledge are all male friends of Puranjani. The living entity, so Puranjani is the name. The living entity is assisted by these senses in acquiring knowledge and engaging in activity. The engagements of the senses are known as girlfriends. And the serpent, which was described as having 5 heads, he is the life air acting within the 5 circulatory processes, pranas. So 5 heads for 5 different functions that serpent has. Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udan, Saman. These are the 5, having 5 functions. They are one word, they are said airs, but all airs have different functions. So 5 heads, that's why. And 7th. The 11th attendant, who is the commander of the others, is known as the mind. He is the leader of the senses both in the acquisition of knowledge and in the performance of work. The Panchal kingdom is that atmosphere in which the 5 sense objects are enjoyed. Within that Panchal kingdom is the city of the body, which has 9 gates. So mind has great strength. So this 11th attendant, commander of others. Others only appear to be so very powerful, but mind is the leader of them all. And Panchala kingdom is 5 states. So 5 states he has. 5 sense objects are enjoyed by this mind. In the purport, Prabhupada says, in his material conditional existence, the living entity gives power of attorney to his mind. Mind plays a vital role, having all the powers with him. We can give that power to Guru only instead of mind. So we may hear Manvani or Guruvani. If we are not hearing Guruvani, we are hearing Manvani. So Manvani is very dangerous. Manorathena satidhavato bahihi, will be driven outside, away from Krishna. But if only we are driven by Guruvani, then we'll go deep inside. We'll reach the soul only. And then next, super soul. And we can converse with the super soul. At least we can beg to the super soul. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh Lord, because of not serving you only, not serving you enough or properly, I am suffering. So please give me more service. You very kindly have given me services, but this is not enough. My mind takes over and drives me out somewhere away to sense objects. So you please give me more service. Please give more service, more service, more service. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This will be reached if we hear Guru Vani, because Guru Vani will force us to surrender to Krishna, and Manvani will force us to surrender to Maya. Please, become nice servant of Maya. So one has to be, this battle will go on and we need to conquer over it. So the eighth one. The eyes, nostrils, and ears are pairs of gates situated in one place. The mouth, genital, and rectum are also different gates. Being placed into a body having these 9 gates, the living entity acts externally in the material world and enjoys sense objects like form and taste. If you remember, very extensively it was described here. So eastern direction, northern, southern, eastern, and western, 2 below. So that was very elaborately discussed, but here in one verse only, he's putting them all together, kind of, or in 2 verses. Next one, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, and a mouth, all together 5, are situated in the front. The right ear is accepted as the southern gate, and the left ear is the northern gate. The 2 holes or gates situated in the west are known as the rectum and the genital. So here he is very elaborately discussing. There, if you remember, he was saying that Puranjan goes out of the city through this gate to the state of some name is given, and then he, with a friend, like that. So all those things. Now he's very simply putting them here. What is it? Now 10 to 15 talk about description of 9 gates. The 2 gates named Khadyota and Avirmukhi, which have been spoken of, are the 2 eyes side by side in one place. The town named Vibhrajita should be understood as form. In this way, the 2 eyes are always engaged in seeing different kinds of forms. So the eyes go out, through the gate he goes out and enjoys some form. Then Nalini, nostrils. The 2 doors named Nalini and Nalini should be known as the 2 nostrils, and the city named Saurabh represents aroma. The companion spoken of as Avadhuta is the sense of smell. The door called Mukhya is the mouth, and the Vipana is the faculty of speech. Rasagya is the sense of taste. So the sense objects as they are being described here. So Avadhuta is for the air, because air is very free. Can wander anywhere, anyhow. So like that's why Avadhuta word is used. Prabhupada accordingly then speaks so many things like Chanchalami Mana Krishna, etc. The city called Apana represents engagement of the tongue in speech, and Bahudan is the variety of foodstuff. The right ear is called the gate of Pitruhu, and the left ear is called the gate of Devahu. So 4 types of foodstuffs are enjoyed by the tongue. What are the 4 types of foodstuffs? Chud. That is what is called in Sanskrit? Charvya. Then sak. That which is sak. That is sak is Chushya. Sucked is chushya. Then that which is licked, that is leya. And drunk, peya. So these are the four types of foodstuffs enjoyed by the tongue. So we take so many foodstuffs, but they fall in one of the four only. So analyzing, so this kind of analytical understanding of life is very helpful. These outside people may not, they talk in those terms. अरे वो क्या जूस है, नहीं लेकिन मैंने श्रीखंड खाया, अरे श्रीखंड वो थोड़ा सॉलिड है ये. So they speak, but they don't realize. They are talking about four kinds of foodstuffs only. Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasad. Spiritual master offers all the foodstuffs to Krishna, and we get the prasad, and we are relishing it. So we can certainly, in a distinguished way, we can relish each and every prasadam item. But we have to know ultimately, as far as material life goes, it is all into four things only. There is no there is no fifth thing. And as far as tests are concerned, six. That's astringent, sweet, bitter, sour, pungent, and one more, salty. Tikha, bitter, we already discussed. Salt is also one there, na? That we had not discussed. So 6 types of tests. So 13th, Narad Muni continued, the city spoken of as Dakshin Panchal represents the scriptures meant for directing pravrutti, the process of sense enjoyment in fruitive activities. The other city named Uttara Panchal represents the scriptures meant for decreasing fruitive activities and increasing knowledge. The living entity receives different kinds of knowledge by means of 2 ears, and some living entities are promoted to Pitrulok and some to Devalok. All this is made possible by the 2 ears. So fruitive activities and increasing knowledge. 14th, the city called Gramaka, which is approached through the lower gate of Asuri, the genital, is meant for sex, which is very pleasing to common men who are simply fools and rascals. The faculty of procreation is called Durmada, and the rectum is called Nirrutti. So Gramaka is the sense object of the penis. This Vishwanath Chakra Thakur explains. So whatever is the sense object for the penis, that is the city of Gramaka, which is approached through the lower gate of Asuri, the genital, and is meant for sex. So one wants to enjoy sex through that thing, through that gate and through that city, a combination of which gives him so-called highest material pleasure possible. But unfortunately, it is entangling then. When it is said, next one, 15th, that Puranjan goes to Vaishyasa, it is meant that he goes to hell. He is accompanied by Lubdhaka, which is the working sense in the rectum. Formerly, I have also spoken of the 2 blind associates. These associates should be understood to be hands and legs. Being helped by the hands and legs, the living entity performs all kinds of work and moves hither and thither. So through rectum also, people try to enjoy. The way the world is, people try for all kinds of sense gratifications possible through all the 9 holes. So they know it, how to do it. Many of us are not even aware. That is our great fortune. (16) The word Antahapura refers to the heart. The word Vishuchina, meaning going everywhere, indicates the mind. Within the mind, the living entity enjoys the effects of the modes of material nature. These effects sometimes cause illusion, sometimes satisfaction, and sometimes jubilation. So mind according to how, which sense object and all, he, according to upbringing and so many other things, experiences one of the three modes. Illusion is experienced in tamas, ignorance, and satisfaction in goodness, sattva gun, and jubilation in rajas, passion. He becomes very elated. So one should not be elated, one should not be morose also. So one should not. Manahi manushyanam karanam bandha moksha. Mind only is the cause of liberation, mind only is the cause of bondage, depending on which mode we associate with. So modes also we associate according to our moods, according to times, so many factors. So that's why hearing Guru is very important. Being in touch with Guru. So he will not allow us to get carried away by the three modes. Like today morning, that question was asked by Samarpan Goprabhu. This Varnashram should, everywhere should is there, like that. So when he asked the question and you took a pause, I think. So myself and Mahavira Prabhu were in bathroom area. So I was telling, as much as one is not hearing one's Guru, that much needs to follow Varnashram, like that. So Guru will transcend one. Take him to Golok Vrindavan only. And if at all he falls from that platform, he should fall down to Varnashram. That is mode of goodness. He should fall down there and perform activity. Again, by Guru's help, he can go up, like that. So Varnashram by default should be setting. One should not fall below Varnashram. But unfortunately, because of ignorance in the society, now hardly anybody follows properly. 17th. Then he's a Paramhamsa, no? No, act he has to, what is that? Yadid acharati sreshtas. He has to follow the, yeah. Otherwise, others will get, what you call, they will get derailed, no? In a sense, they'll get deviated. Krishna says, no, so there are no rules for me. No, but I follow. What is that verse? Ha, Trishu Lokeshu Kinchana. But I follow. As a king, he followed this. Sometimes Krishna is supreme anyway, so he may appear not following, but we have to follow. Our acharyas are the best who have shown that. If they are sannyasis, they follow the code of conduct of sannyasi. If they are grahastha, they show the code of conduct of a grahastha. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the best ideal grahastha, and then accordingly, Bhaktisarana Thakur is sannyasi. So you can see how they follow their codes of conduct as grahastha, sannyasi, but they are transcendental. They don't debate. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is not acting like a sannyasi, nor is Bhaktivinoda Thakur acting like a grahastha. No, they follow. Otherwise, the whole world will be put to ruination. I think Krishna says that. If I don't follow this, then the whole world will be put to ruination. So it is the duty of them, like that. But safest is to follow Guru. Understood? We are not on that platform. All the time we cannot follow. Otherwise, we will become pure devotee only. So that's why Varnashram then. Guru will say, do this. Guru is the, what you call, ideal follower of Varnashram. He appears to be in that Varna and Ashram, but he is transcendental. So following him is the perfection of life. Hmm. Okay, then. No, we have a proper books are there. We are talking about outsiders. That's why we all are supposed to do that. We have to set them in their Varna and Ashram. So that again, you only have to teach them. No? Otherwise, some of them are still following some kind of semblance of Varnashram, but without proper motive, because there is no access to Guru Parampara. So it is our responsibility to guide them in their motives. If they are following but not knowing, and what to speak of those who not know only. So for them, we have to teach them also. And so many projects are there already taken up in that regard, like farmers are being taught, cow care, all that, like that. Okay, we'll go ahead. Varnashram is, I think, difficult, dangerous subject matter. If we touch it like, it can explode, and the syllabus may remain there. So we'll go ahead. 17th. Formerly, it was explained that the queen is one's intelligence, while one is awake or asleep. That intelligence creates different situations. Being influenced by contaminated intelligence, the living entity envisions something and simply imitates the actions and reactions of his intelligence. So this was in the 4.25.56. So if you remember there, it was said, whatever the queen did, the king followed. If you remember a little bit, if she lied down, he lied down. If she stood up, he stood up. If she walked, he followed behind. So that kind of description was there. So that's what is being told by Narad Muni here. Precisely what does it mean? So this intelligence creates different situations, whether awake or asleep, etc. Vishwanath Chakdev Thakur says the Atma is simply a witness and acts by force of the intelligence. The intelligence is the cause of the Jiva acting. The intelligence has a very vital role. Prabhupada also says, since the intelligence is contaminated, the living entity is also contaminated. So it is a force that acts on the soul. Though soul is only a witness, as much as we free ourselves from the lower modes of passion and ignorance, we can see also as witness. We can see, oh, I'm getting controlled by this now. I'm getting forced now. I don't want to. Arjun also has asked that, Atakkena prayuktoyam. But unfortunately, when the passion is acting, we cannot understand it is acting, kind of, when we are in passion. But if we come to the mode of goodness, then also we can see the passion is trying to act on me. It's pulling me now. So soul is only a witness. If we at least the mode of goodness is there, we could see that. Next, 18 to 20th. Narad Muni continued, what I referred to as the chariot was in actuality the body. The senses are the horses that pull that chariot. As time passes, year after year, these horses run without obstruction, but in fact, they make no progress. Amazing, huh? Isn't it? Nothing can restrict them. They keep running rather, year after year. But in fact, they make no progress. Sometimes we have that virtual, in the computer they show the horse is running, but he's on the same place in the screen. Only the ground they show as passing by, but he's there only. So like that is our story. Pious and impious activities are the two wheels of the chariot. The three modes of material nature are the chariot's flags. The five types of life here constitute the living entity's bondage, and the mind is considered to be the rope. Intelligence is the chariot driver. The heart is the sitting place in the chariot, and the dualities of life, such as pleasure and pain, are the knotting place. The seven elements are the coverings of the chariot, and the working senses are the five external processes. The 11 senses are the soldiers. Being engrossed in sense of enjoyment, the living entity seated on the chariot hankers after fulfillment of his false desires and runs after sense enjoyment, life after life. Many times we give this analogy in device only, whichever, I don't know which one, third, fourth, whatever. So that is coming here. We can quote also Srimad Bhagavatam 4.29.18 to 20. Verse also can be quoted. Little difficult maybe in pronunciation. Deho rathas twindriyascha samvassara yo agatihi, etc. So last word he says, runs after sense enjoyment, life after life. So he's going out hunting. That is what is compared. That is what is being explained by Narad Muni. If you remember, Puranjan once had gone for hunting. And how much he hunted? A lot. Isn't it? You remember the description. And then he comes back and the wife, queen, is upset and all that story. So that is being explained here. So he hankers after fulfillment of his false desire. He had the desire, let me go out and hunt, like that, and runs after sense enjoyment, life after life. Prabhupada quotes, Yaita Brahmanda Bhari Ananta Jivagan 84 लक्ष योनिते करो ये भ्रमण आब्रह्म भुवना लोका कर्म कांड ज्ञान कांड केवल विषय भांड. All the different hunting excursions of Puranjan, Karma Kand, Gyan Kand, these are also all hunting excursions only, trying to enjoy in a pious way, an intellectual way, and all that. But Nana Yoni Sada Fire, Kadarya Bhakshana Kare, Tara Janma, Adha Pate Jai. Ultimately, he glides down in lower species. 21st. What was previously explained as Chanda Vega, powerful time, is covered by days and nights, named Gandharvas and Gandharvis. The body's lifespan is gradually reduced by the passage of days and nights, which number 360. Chanda Vega means Prachanda Vega. Prachanda word we know. Same Chanda Vega. So powerful time goes with high speed. 365 days, nights. 22nd. What was described as Kalakanya should be understood as old age. No one wants to accept old age, but Yavaneshwar, Yavanaraj, who is death, accepts Jara, old age, as his sister. If you remember towards the end, that was also told. And she comes and she approached first whom? Narad Muni. And Narad Muni said no. So as much as we practice Krishna consciousness as followers of Narad Muni, we also will say no to old age. That means not that old age will not come, but it will not act as old age. Its symptoms will be visible, but the soul will not be. Just like Uddhav also it is said, or that, what were the exact words? Jarayo na, something like that. So the old age came, but he was very active. Prabhupada in the purport talks about retirement. There is no retirement for those who are in devotional service. In fact, they become more active with the time, passage of time. Days, months, years pass by. Devotees become more and more active in Krishna consciousness. Old age symptoms will be there on body, but then enthusiasm will not go down. That once devotees had gone out for Harinam Sankirtan, Prabhupada and his god brother, who was he? Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. So they both also desired to go, but they were old bodied. So they could not walk and dance on the street. So they both sat in auto, and then they were going by side. And what were they doing? They were chanting with raised arms, means they were raising arms. Legs, that dancing was difficult, but hands were raised, and they went all the way also. So that shows the enthusiasm never goes down. So Narad Muni did not accept, so his followers also will not be haunted by Jara. But Yavaneshwar, death, accepted. In fact, devotees go beyond death also. What is that? Ayurharti vaipumsam udyanastancha janaso tasya rute yat kshanonita uttama shloka vartaya. With the passing of days and nights, one comes closer to death, except for those who are always engaged in Krishna Katha. For them, there is no death. Prabhupada says a preacher of Krishna consciousness is beyond the clutches of death. See? So all of us are preachers of Krishna consciousness. We have been given that fortune by Prabhupada's grace. We get so much opportunity to preach. So we are very fortunate for that matter. So we should preach and go beyond the clutches of death, and then Jara is also not there. So this sister, Vishnu Chakra Thakur says, he accepts, Yavaneshwar accepts Jara. Vishnu Chakra Thakur says, for destroying the people. So death accepts old age to destroy the people. Vishnu Chakra Thakur says. You can see also in old age how people's, all their plans, they are destroyed, even physically for that matter. No matter how powerful they might have been once upon a time, now they have to bend, they have to take help of someone, or glasses, so many things, top to bottom, left to right, front to back, externally as well as internally. They speak, जब मैं जवान था ना तो मैं ऐसे करता था, अभी or they may not speak that next, अभी के बाद, जब मैं जवान था तो मैंने ऐसा किया था. That means what? Abhi I am not able to do that. Now I am not able to do that. So old age, death accepts old age as his sister, and both together they act on the living entity for destroying the people. And for sister, he says, though his sister, he becomes her husband also. Death becomes the husband of Jara, old age. He accepts her as sister, but he becomes her husband. She is merciful to the Vaishnavas. By the order of Narada, she helps them surpass death. Narada Muni has ordered old age. And when old age comes, devotees become mature. Hey, this is my indication. What I have been hearing in scriptures is true. Those of us who have been practicing from young age, in young youthful days, we might not have understood the philosophy so well. कि ऐसा भी होता है. 6 phases one passes through: birth, what do you call that? Growth, maintenance, producing byproducts, dwindling. So dwindling we might not have understood so well. Now, how many of you are understanding dwindling in the body? I think many are beyond 30, 35, 40, like that. How many of you experience your teeth power is not like what it was earlier? Yeah. Similarly, sitting straight is difficult. Earlier I used to sit straight, I would be glorified. और देखो कैसे जब करता बैठ के. अभी वो बीच बीच में याद आके थोड़ा मैं खड़ा हो जाता हूँ मैंने. अभी वो मुश्किल है काफी. So even if sitting like this, sometimes again tend to become like that. So many things: weakness, eyesight. How many of you? I don't use glasses, but it's not so clear as earlier, like that. And so many other aspects of life, each and every. Strength. How many of you experience strength is less? Like that. When I was 24 years old, I can reveal here, I used to feel एक मुट्ठी मारूंगा ना ये दीवार को तो दीवार टूट जाएगी. कभी किया नहीं. शायद मुट्ठी टूट जाती थी, लेकिन ऐसा लगता था कि बहुत पावर है. अभी ऐसा लगता है कि क्या भगवान, इतना भी पावर नहीं है. अरे तो बच्चा भी कर जाता है, हम कर भी नहीं पा रहे. क्या है? How powerless we are. So it is good. That's what he is saying. Now Vaishnava Chakra Thakur is saying, by the order of Narad Muni, she helps them surpass death. When they understand the body is growing old, so they will take Krishna consciousness very seriously. So then that way they will surpass death, because when one takes Krishna consciousness seriously, he can surpass death. Certainly, just by hearing Guru Vani, one can overcome. But for most of the people, it is like experience is very important. It's like experience is the best teacher. So we cannot understand. I have one photo of His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj in Pune Yatra, Giraj Swami Maharaj, and myself and Sri Guchampu, many others are dancing. So we are in high jump, we are in air. So that photo somehow, whosoever clicked, it is there. So then sometimes when I see it, I wonder, अभी मैं high jump लेता हूँ क्या? कब लेंगे हम jump? अभी तो वो अपना ये वाला left right, that is very good, because one of the legs is always on ground. But when they say no, knee, thigh, gaura, hari, ba, that time you're supposed to take high jump. So there comes test. Taking both the legs up in the air, not so easy eventually. When you cross 40, 45, we can, but again, we cannot for long time. Like in the Pune Yatra, 3 hours of Mangal Arati. My God. अभी 3 hours ज़्यादा हो रहा है. But one beauty is, if we are with devotees, we get carried away in a nice way. We don't realize so much. Like yesterday, Rath Yatra was taxing. Yes or not? How many are experiencing? Yeah. But when we are into it, we did not realize so much. Because the force, mama, what is that? Satam prasangan, mama virya samvido. We get invigorated. अरे क्या वो इतना नाच रहे, मैं भी नाचता हूँ. सब नाच के बाद में yesterday when we came to Prasadam hall, we went below the barricade was there, to go to that hotel rooms and all. तो जब मैं barricade के लिए मैं when I bent down, then I understood, my God, back is paining. In Rath Yatra dancing, I did not understand so much. Now when I bend, then I understand, back is in trouble. So good to be in the association of devotees. We will get carried away and they will reach Golok. Hopefully we will also behind them. We will reach there. That is the only hope. 23rd to 25. The followers of Yamaneshwar, Yamaraj, are called the soldiers of death, and they are known as the various types of disturbances that pertain to the body and mind. Prajvara represents the 2 types of fever: extreme heat and extreme cold, typhoid and pneumonia. The living entity lying down within the body is disturbed by many tribulations pertaining to providence, to other living entities, and to his own body and mind. Despite all kinds of tribulations, the living entity subjected to the necessities of the body, mind, and senses, and suffering from various types of disease, is carried away by many plans due to his lust to enjoy the world. Although transcendental to this material existence, the living entity, out of ignorance, accepts all these material miseries under the pretext of false egoism, I and mine. In this way, he lives for 100 years within this body. So he's not realizing how he's in trouble like that. So just like a snake, when he's captured the frog trying to eat, you must have seen that photo sometime. The frog's tongue is out for what? Fly. Like that. So when he's trying to enjoy that fly, simultaneously he's getting gulped down by the snake. So that is our position. Though we are trying to enjoy sense gratification, but we are in the clutches of Kala Sarpa. So time is slowly going, it's ticking, the clock ticking. Sometimes we have those wall clocks. It's good to see the second hand. Tick, tick. Sometimes in the night we feel too disturbed. So some of our brahmacharis remove the wall clock and put it under something. So that is okay. But in the daytime we can watch the clock and see how tick, 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 tick. Our heartbeat also. Though I think we cannot hear, but sometimes we can feel it like that. So ticking, ticking, that palpitation. So we are coming close to death. Those who are intelligent student, those who are not interested in studies and all, those students say, abhi to semester ki beginning hai. Now a lot of fun like that. But those who are intelligent student, first day only they will calculate. Okay, only 5 months to go. Semester, but actually 6 months are not there. Last 1 month is vacation only. So only 5 months to go. So 30 into 5, how many? 150 days. So 150 days. 150 days. So they have countdown. Those who are not intelligent, they have count up. अभी तो एग्जाम बहुत दूर है. So for both the pattern is same, but thinking is different. So devotees means they know I'm approaching the last moment within this body. I am eternal, but my time span in this body. So they utilize very nicely then. They will not waste time. Toward the end of the purport, in the last paragraph, middle Prabhupada says, manifold miseries encircle the transcendental living entity simply because he desires to satisfy senses in this material world. If he simply withdraws from activities of sense gratification and applies his senses in the service of the Lord, all the problems of material existence will immediately diminish. And with the advancement of Krishna consciousness, he will be freed from all tribulation, and after giving up the body, will return home back to Godhead. So all our problems are only because of our desire to enjoy the senses and activities to enjoy the senses. So if only we get rid of that, then immediately all the material existence will diminish. Only problem in the world is lack of Krishna consciousness, and only solution is Krishna consciousness. Bhakti Thakur very precisely has summarized whole of our life. Everything, problem, solution, both are given, and nothing is outside of it. We may describe problems, unlimited problem, this happened and that happened, but basically I am not Krishna conscious, that's why I experience that problem or those problems. As much as we are Krishna conscious, we don't feel only. Or if at all, okay, fine. Pratyanukampam sushamikshama, because of my past sinful activity, I suffered or I am suffering. Okay, Krishna is very merciful. I did not suffer so much, or I am not suffering so much. How much more I would have suffered if I was not trying to serve Krishna. So let me go on. Krishna is very merciful. Krishna bado doyamoy. If this understanding is there in all situations of life, this we have in the prayers, Mahaprasad prayer. Krishna bado doyamoy. I don't know how many. How many of you recite the Mahaprasad Govinda prayer very consciously? अभी तो सीनियर ऐसे भाव के स्तर पे आया तो नहीं हूँ, लेकिन so Krishna Badadoyame. Krishna is very merciful. He has given his mercy in the form of this prasadam, by honoring which we will control this Horeya system. So that is true. He has given his mercy. But everything, every moment in my life is Krishna's mercy. Krishna is merciful only. If we can realize this, then our material existence is over only. or is getting over. Because only problem is lack of Krishna consciousness. Krishna is always merciful and Krishna is always fair. To understanding from one Vedanta Sutra, Prabhupada quotes in 4.16, I believe, purport. Vaishamye nirghunne na sapikshatvat yatha darshayati. Prabhupada quotes in 4th chapter Bhagavad Gita purport also, somewhere 15, 16, and in 5th chapter also. Why to quote again? Same thing, which is already quoted just a chapter back. But that is very important. In Karma Yoga, when I am doing karma, I should not blame Krishna for anything wrong happening. So that should not happen. So that's why Prabhupada is quoting twice. That Lord is never unfair. Vishamta is not there. Samta only. Vaishamya is not there in the Lord. He is always fair. And Nirgrunya, he is never cruel. He is always merciful. If only we understand these two, then we can be completely undisturbed in all situations of life. There's no question of getting disturbed anytime. Because anything happens in my life, Krishna is merciful. He has mercifully arranged this for me. No, but my finger got cut. Oh, my hand was to be cut. Krishna is merciful, only finger got cut. So like that. And in sometimes, because of being in an institution, sometimes we feel that there is so much partiality here. This person, this Prabhu's agent or counselee, so he has upgraded him, has given him this and that. So there is unfair things, partiality going on. So that is because we are saying that Krishna is partial. No, Krishna is not unfair. Krishna is not partial. Partial. He's impartial and he's fair. If only we have this understanding, we can be understood in all situations. Dhirastatrana muhyati. And if that is achieved, then life can go very smoothly. But anyway, here Puranjan is described, so how he enjoys, that is being told here. 26, 27. The living entity by nature has minute independence to choose his own good or bad fortune. But when he forgets his supreme master, the personality of Godhead, he gives himself up unto the modes of material nature. Being influenced by the modes of material nature, he identifies himself with the body, and for the interest of the body becomes attached to various activities. Sometimes he is under the influence of the mode of ignorance, sometimes passion, sometimes goodness. The living entity thus gets different types of bodies under the modes of material nature. That we have heard, Uddhavam Gachanti, Satvastha, Madhya Tishtanti, Rajasa, Jaganya Gunavrittistha, Adho Gachanti, Tamasa. So kind of modes we associate with, accordingly our further destination going up, down, remaining here, continues. Our Purusha Prakriti Sthoi, Bhungte Prakriti Jarmuna. Prabhupada is quoting that. 28. Those who are situated in the mode of goodness act piously according to Vedic injunctions. Thus, they are elevated to the higher planetary systems where the demigods live. Those who are influenced by the mode of passion engage in various types of productive activities in the planetary systems where human beings live. Similarly, those influenced by the mode of darkness are subjected to various types of misery and live in the animal kingdom. Prabhupada in purport. Those influenced by the mode of goodness are given places in the upper planetary systems, Brahmalok, Satyalok, Tapalok, Janalok and Maharlok. Those influenced by the mode of passion are given places in the Bhurlok and Bhurlok. Prabhupada is quoting 2. Those influenced by the mode of ignorance are given places in Atal, Vital, Sutal, Talatal, Mahatal, Rasatal, Patal and the animal kingdom. 29th. I'm going a little fast because we are lagging. Covered by the mode of ignorance in the material nature, the living entity is sometimes a male, sometimes a female, sometimes a eunuch, sometimes a human being, sometimes a demigod, bird, animal, and so on. In this way, he is wandering within the material world. His acceptance of different types of bodies is brought about by his activities under the influence of the modes of nature. So all is gunka kheli hai sab. Modes are only acting. So we have to be careful not to be within modes. Krishna also has said, what is that? Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. So our goal is to go beyond the 3 modes. So for that reason only, Guru Ani helps like that. Otherwise, by mind's flow, we will be in one of the 3 modes. Aranaha Koriho Mane Asha. So mind should not be heard. In the purport process, after 3-4 lines, living entities are like the small particles of that sun, which constitute the all-pervasive sunshine. When these small particles are covered by the cloud of Maya, they lose their shining capacity. When the cloud of Maya is gone, the particles again become brilliant and shining. So Guru does this. Guru shows us our real nature. How you are not, what you call, without shine. You have shine. In the earlier we have heard those stories that eagle got mixed with hens, and how was not hardly flying, little above the ground. So then sometimes they say human being tried to throw that eagle little bit. Mhm. So then what happened? It again like a hen. It came down and was crying. What is this? So ultimately, what he did, that man, nobody knows. No, mother, how to find? He brought him to the cliff, top of a hill, and showed him, took his head, his neck, and showed upward and showed him, see how eagles are flying in the sky. You fellow, you have been associating with the hens only and have seen them only flying a little bit. He never, because the hens don't look up in the sun, in the sky. The hens, how they look down, they look here and there. They don't see in the sky. So you have been seeing only them flying a little bit. Now he showed him forcefully. See, they can fly sky high. And then he threw him. Then little difficulty in the beginning, but then because the eagle is eagle after all, then he started flapping its wings and then went soar sky high. So Guru does that for us like that. Some other time we might have heard that the cub getting mixed with goats. Like, and then bah, bah, cub also was saying bah, bah, because Sanka Parinam. So so then ultimately that lion was after uh, lion father, and then ultimately caught him like that, gave him slap and then trained him in some way. So this is our case. We have a lot of power. We have a lot of pride of our material powers, that is all because of ignorance. But if only we take shelter of Guru's lotus feet, Guru will tell us about our actual power of humility. Then there is no pride. Then we'll be proud of Guru and Guru Krupa. It was my Guru's grace. That is what I have been now, like that. So this pride is good. My Guru blessed me, like that. Whatever is there is all his gift only. So this is our original power. But unfortunately, within ignorance, we are proud, undoubtedly, but proud of worldly things which are here today, gone tomorrow. Even our own intelligence, we may be very powerful, we may be very proud of, but tomorrow we may not have that intelligence. It will not act so well. How many of you have seen senior devotees? Sometimes, what is that verse? Like that. They take our help. Like that. Because that earlier they might be remembering that verse, but now may not. Because whatever. But humility is the greatest power. In the next paragraph, Prabhupada says, under the influence of Maya, the living entity becomes exactly like a person haunted by a ghost. Such a person speaks all kinds of nonsense. So we should also realize this, that actually I'm a ghost only, haunted by ghost. So I speak all nonsense only. If Guru's grace is there, then we will say like that. I speak all nonsense, and how people appreciate, that is great wonder. Others are very nice devotees, because they appreciate me for my speaking nonsense also. Great. And Krishna is also amazing. Krishna's fun. Once His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj said that you all are from South Mumbai, and you are educated, BTech, MTech, lawyers, doctors, this, that, and you are coming from very nice, cultured Indian families. And I am just a college dropout from America. I don't have any wealth. But you are hearing from me. This is joke of the millennium. This is Krishna's greatest joke. And also Prabhupada's mercy. Like, so I'm very fallen, but you all are very amazing. But still you listen to me. That is your greatness and Krishna's amazing mercy. 31-32. The living entity is exactly like a dog who, overcome with hunger, goes from door to door for some food. According to his destiny, he sometimes receives punishment and is driven out, and at other times receives a little food to eat. Similarly, the living entity, being influenced by so many desires, wanders in different species of life according to destiny. Sometimes he is high and sometimes he is low. Sometimes he goes to the heavenly planets, sometimes to hell, sometimes to middle planets, and so on. So he is Dina. Dina means poor. Kshut yatha Dina. Sarameyo graham graham. Like a dog, he goes house to house. So Vishnu Chakti Thakur says Dina means poor. To he doesn't use the word. He says except which dog, not every dog. That's why he's using the word Dina, because to exclude the dog belonging to a king. He doesn't go door to door begging. No. So that means one who has surrendered to devotees, Krishna, Guru. So for him, he doesn't have to get kicked like that by Maya, getting punished every now and then. He's king's dog. So that's why our acharyas have taken pride in calling themselves as dogs. Dog of Guru, dog of Krishna, like that. Who says that? What is that? Tumara Kukura. What is the beginning? Sarvasva Tomar, Charane Sampiya, Podichi Tomara Gare, Tumi to Thakur, Tomara Kukura. Bolia Jana Hamare. So your Thakur, master, I am Kukur, I am your servant. Please accept me like that. So dog is famous for his loyalty. So we have to be loyal to our gurus in Guru Parampara, and then we will not be suffering like the street dog going here and there. Prabhupada showed that on the Juhu beach, and that street dog was also there. And then some rich men coming there for morning walk, they had their dogs also. But that dog is, what was the verse quoted? In which context? Sanath and Anath. What in that slogan? Bhavantam, Charantam, something like that. Below Sanatha Jivitam. This dog is under that rich man. Yes. Huh? Huh? Under master, rich master. So he is enjoying life. Whereas street dog gets beaten up by everyone. So having Nath is the perfection in life. Just like a woman, as we are also Prakriti in nature. So like a woman is incomplete without having a husband. So similarly, we are incomplete without a master. So we should have our master. And always, just like a woman, chaste woman, always remember her husband, how to serve him better, more, all those thoughts only throughout the day. So like that, our life also should be. Next one, 32nd. The living entities are trying to counteract different miserable conditions pertaining to providence, other living entities, or the body and mind. Still, they must remain conditioned by the laws of nature, despite all attempts to counter these laws. So, pertaining to providence means Adi Daivik, other living entities Adi Bhautik, or the body and mind, Adhyatmik. So, this is what the struggle is all throughout. Daiva Bhutatma Hetushu. I think Prabhupada quotes these words. Anybody remembers where? If I'm not wrong, in the NOI, I was looking for it in one sense. Where is Prabhupada quoting that from? So that is mostly from here. Daiva Bhutatma Hetushu. That much only Prabhupada quotes in explaining these threefold miseries and all that. So Daiva Bhuta Atma Hetushu, for this purpose of getting rid of Adhyatmik Adi Bhautik Adi Devik Klesh. Prabhupada in purport says after 3-4 lines, to get rid of one miserable condition, we have to put ourselves in another kind of miserable condition. Sometimes I have seen that because of last, whatever, Lord's grace through bodily difficulties, to get rid of some problem in the body, we have to go to this doctor, that doctor, then this medicine, that medicine. That is another misery. Sometimes we feel, better not go to doctor only, but that is another problem. Then I'm not, the department is glorious, but I'm talking about how material existence in this world is dangerous, problematic. So much difficulty. Devotees keep changing doctors very frequently. ये बहुत मुश्किल है, वो मुश्किल है, लेकिन अपना बॉडी ही मुश्किल वाला है. तो what to do? दुख औषधम तदपि दुखम atadhya. That is talk for material miseries, and the counteraction through material endeavors is a bigger problem. But More or less, that is the life in material world. Then he gives example in the 33rd verse. A man may carry a burden on his head, and when he feels it too heavy, he sometimes gives relief to his head by putting the burden on his shoulder. In this way, he tries to relieve himself of the burden. However, whatever process he devises to counteract the burden does nothing more than put the same burden from one place to another. Like that. Sometimes we also carry our bags. So difficult and carry here. Book bag is very good. That is not a burden. That is burden of love. That is great. But otherwise, anything else which is not in the service of Hari Guru Vaishnava is a big burden, tiring. 34th. Narada continued, O you who are free from all sinful activity, no one can counteract the effects of fruitive activity simply by manufacturing a different activity devoid of Krishna consciousness. All such activity is due to our ignorance. When we have a troublesome dream, we cannot relieve it with a troublesome hallucination. One can counteract a dream only by awakening. Similarly, our material existence is due to our ignorance and illusion. Unless we awaken to Krishna consciousness, we cannot be relieved of such dreams. For the ultimate solution to all problems, we must awaken to Krishna consciousness. Such a nice verse, translation. Similarly, that in the 5th chapter of first canto also, Naishkarmam api achyuta bhava varjatam na shobhate jnanam alam niranjanam. So even that which is appears glorious, but without the knowledge of the self, it is all no point. So similarly, we have to get out from this dream only. In the dream only, we may enjoy some nice food stuff, and in the dream only may suffer some tiger chasing after us. But if we just come to reality, then we are in actual situation. So getting rid of all the problems of life means to awaken to reality, to come out of dream state. And that's what Guru does. That's what Guru Vani does. It brings us to reality. It doesn't allow us to go on with our dreamy state, hallucination. Bhakti Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, so he may, in the dream, he may see that his son died in the dream. And then he feels grief. Oh, my son died and all that. And then in the same dream, then son becomes alive. In the dream, it is possible, isn't it? Son died and then son, after some time, came back to life. So grief disappears. Oh, son is not dead. Son is alive. And then a snake bites the son in the same dream. And then again suffering like that. So he said, just wake up. All problem he's facing is because of his dream only. Son died, son became alive, son was bitten by snake. Just come to awakened state. Similarly, samsara dukkha cannot be stopped except by destroying samsara. So samsara dukkha is because we are continuing with samsara. So destroy samsara. Destroy samsara means not that you create problem for others, but get out of the dreamy state, thinking that I am body or I am enjoying life. This is not enjoyable. All that illusory concept of life one has to overcome. Prabhupada in purport second line says, keeping the burden in either place is the same. The transferal, however, is taking place under the name of counteraction. So you think, now I am, I have counteracted the misery. But what I have done? I have taken the burden from this shoulder to that shoulder. So this shoulder, after carrying the load for whatever, half an hour, is so much pain in pain. So when I take it from here to here, then I feel, now I am relieved of pain. So, okay, relieved of pain, but then what is going to happen? After some time, you are going to cry for this left side burden, that trouble. And then we may take it on head. Then again, that is going to be trouble after some time. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. Keeping the burden in either place is same. The transferal, however, is taking place under the name of counteraction. So the problem continues. Only we, so to say, are thinking, no, there is no problem. 35th. Sometimes we suffer because we see a tiger in a dream or a snake in a vision, but actually there is neither a tiger nor a snake. Thus we create some situation in a subtle form and suffer the consequences. These sufferings cannot be mitigated unless we are awakened from our dream. Amazing. This is knowledge of self-realization. This is what Guru awards. Guru said, there is no problem. No problem. No, Guru Maharaj, there's so many problems. Please understand. Please hear me, Guru Maharaj. Please hear me. Boli bo dukher katha. And our regret is, our distress is, Guru doesn't give me time. I want to tell him 100 problems I'm facing. Guru or Guru's representative, whosoever he may be. So many problems. But basically, we are not hearing him or hearing them. If only we hear them with attention, ekagra chitta se sunenge, to फिर then there are no problems only. I am going on with my dream. That's why I am suffering. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Sukha Dukkha, these are all qualities of body. Actually, no suffering for the jiva, dissociated from the body. So I want to read this, I think, nice tika by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this. Because happiness and distress are qualities of the body, actually there is no suffering for the jiva who is dissociated from the body. What is the use of trying to destroy suffering that does not exist? What is the use of trying to destroy suffering that does not exist? So which is that suffering that does not exist? That which you are experiencing by body. We are not that body only, but only we are associating with the body. So that's why one who dissociates from the body, for him there are no sufferings only. Though suffering does not exist for the jiva, without wiping out that misconception of suffering, material existence will not cease. In a dream, false objects continue to give suffering to the jiva, moving about with the mind, which is a covering, upadhi, on the jiva, linga rupena, until the person wakes up. So nice words are there, quite loaded also. Though suffering does not exist for the jiva, without wiping out that misconception of suffering, material existence will not cease. So if you want to get rid of samsara, so this sansar dukkha should be wiped off first. And how? By just awakening to reality. That's all. I am just in my dreamy state only, I am suffering. Actually, there is no suffering only. That's how our Acharya, like Bilvamangal Thakur, Prabodhan Saraswati Thakur says. What does he say? Vishwam Purna Sukhayate. The whole world, this material world is Sukhalayam. Pratipadam Purnamrita Sadhanam. Swadu Swadu Pade Pade. Anandambudhi Vardhanam. Susukham Kartum Avyayam. It's all happy, happy, happy. Happy, happy we shall be when we learn our ABC. You did not have this poem. Huh? In my 5th standard, I had this. What is that? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And then I think last line this. Happy, happy we shall be when we learn our ABC. Huh? So only we have to learn this properly. If only we learn this. So if you associate devotees, that means hearing from devotees, acting accordingly. B, reading Prabhupada books. C, chanting accordingly. Then we will be happy. Happy, happy we shall be when we learn our ABC. Only we have not learned ABC properly. That is a big problem. And unfortunately, Maya convinces I know entirety about ABC. I have given lecture on association. 10-hour seminar on books, reading Prabhupada books. I have given several seminars and chanting, uncountable seminars. This is the problem. Marathi there is saying, Loka Sange Brahmadnyan, Swataha Korade Pashan. I'm talking about myself, not you all. Swataha Korade Pashan. Loka Sange Brahmadnyan. He's telling spiritual knowledge to others. Swataha, personally, Korade Pashan. Like a dry stone, huh? This must be Tukaram Maharaj. Huh? Saying is there, but many of the sayings are abhangas. Like I had gone to Bhor one school, so they have prayers, this national anthem and all that. So afterwards they have Tukaram Maharaj abhangas. So they will, with the drum, the boy was playing and he was singing, Nahi nirmala jivana, kaya karila sabana. Your mind is not pure. What is the use of applying so much soap on your gross body? This is Abhanga, Tukaram Maharaj, isn't it? So many of the sayings in Marathi are proverbs. They are the Abhangas or whatever. But eventually, some other thoughts are also there. But basically, sometimes we have to take a closer look to ourselves. All my problems are because I am not identifying myself with my true nature. That is a big problem. And 37th. The real interest of the living entity is to get out of the nescience that causes him to endure repeated birth and death. The only remedy is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his representative. Unless one renders devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev, one cannot possibly become completely detached from this material world, nor can he possibly manifest real knowledge. So, very nice words are there in this 36th verse. Bhaktya paramaya guru संसृतिस tad vyavaschedyo. Vyavaschedyo is what? Stopping. Where is it? Stopping. So we can stop this samsruti, that is material existence, bhaktya, by devotional service. But how? Paramaya guruho, by having bhakti not only to Krishna but to Guru also, his representative. So samsara or misery ceases by pure bhakti to Guru. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, sansar or misery ceases by pure bhakti to Guru. Bhaktya paramaya guru. Since Guru teaches about bhakti to the Lord, Guru is always uncompromising. Ours is all Atma Bhakti. We go on with our own bhakti only. And Guru said, no, Krishna Bhakti. I will teach you about Krishna Bhakti because that's what makes me happy. That's what will make you happy. You are miserable only because of your Atma Bhakti. You are having so much devotion to yourself only, to your body, gross and subtle, and to your false ego. So I will not allow you to go on with that. That is the cause of your suffering. Prabhupada in purport says after 3-4 lines, everyone is trying to be happy and the process adopted to achieve that happiness is called self-interest. Then little few lines later, one first has to control the mind so that the desires of the mind can be purified. So by giving in to the mind's dictates, mind will become more polluted. But by controlling the mind, desires of the mind, one will be purified. And Guru teaches that. That's why Guru, Bhakti to Guru is very, very important. In the 37th verse, the Narad Muni says, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Samahitaha. This is similar to what we have in second canto, second chapter of first canto. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahetukam. So if you see, this is more or less same only. Only Samahita has come. And then Sadvichinena Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Janishati. Same. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Sadhan Bhakti leads to Prema Bhakti. And Prema Bhakti is completely dedicated to Lord alone. It is for his pleasure, not for one's own happiness. So Prema Bhakti is for Lord's pleasure alone, not for anyone else's. And in Sadhan Bhakti, also that training is being given, imparted, but then we act sometimes for our own pleasure only. But the training, as good training is given, that much we are taught, no, not for our pleasure, for Lord's pleasure. We have to act for his pleasure. Then acting on it, hearing that first of all submissively, acting on it, going on, practicing it thoroughly to perfection. Then one day we'll enter in Prema Bhakti by acting solely for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So that is the part of training. Training means this only. 38. O best of kings, one who is faithful, who is always hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always engaged in the culture of Krishna consciousness and hearing of the Lord's activities, very soon becomes eligible to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Such a nice verse. So, Achira Deva Rajarshe Syad Achyuta Kathashrayah Shrunvataha Shraddadhanasya Nityada Syad Adhiyataha. By cultivation. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says three things. Shrunvataha means three things: hear, chant, and remember. Three things we have to do with faith, faithfully. Shraddha. And proper stress on hearing is amazing. You can read the purport. Do you have microphone? You have, I think, there. Here, to your right only.
Engagement in the transcendental loving service of Vasudeva means constantly hearing the glories of the Lord. The principles of Bhakti Yoga, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaran, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Sakyam, Atma Nidanam are the only means by which perfection can be attained. Simply by hearing of the glories of the Lord, one is elevated to the transcendental position.
So proper stress is on hearing. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says three things. Shrunvataha means hear, chant, and remember. But Prabhupada has also quoted Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. They follow step by step only, beginning with Shravanam. So constantly hearing the glories of the Lord. Constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of Vasudeva means constantly hearing the glories of the Lord. So how to do that? Any idea? Like sometimes you may find me hearing from mobile, some lecture I'll hear. But that anyway, 24 hours we cannot do. In the night, no question. And even in the daytime also many times, just not possible. So what does it mean? Constantly hearing. Yes. Like today morning Bhagavatam class or Jappa talk or some lecture we heard or something we read or some devotee just like that while passing may say something like that. So we can just remember that. So that you are hearing only. In fact, this is very powerful hearing. So what was heard in the morning is still ringing in your mind in the afternoon, in the evening, or before sleeping also. If you see in that Lilamrit, it is said that narration of Prabhupada on the in 1936 Kartik Yatra meeting Guru Maharaj Bhakti Thakur and around Radha Kund, that whole thing in short towards the end Bhakti Thakur said, no, if only I had money, I would just pluck out this marble, sell it in the market, and with the money obtained, print books, publish books, and distribute them. Whenever you get money, print books. So it is said on the holy abode of Radha Kund, these words of the spiritual master kept ringing in the mind of Abhay Charanarvinda Prabhu. Whenever you get money, print books. Whenever you get money, print books. Whenever you get money, print books. And this kept ringing in Prabhupada's mind in 1977 also, till the last point of life. So that is proper hearing. Like that. Otherwise, so many things we hear. I have, like that day I quoted, so many devotees appreciate, Prabhu, thank you for that point of Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying, we want to take Jagannath all over the world in aeroplanes. That day I said, no, in Friday or somewhere. Like so many devotees were speaking. Even Revati Prabhu was saying, I never heard this point before. It was very nice. I said, no, bro, you heard it in 2015. Maharaj spoke it. Prabhupada Saraswati Maharaj, you heard it. Even I had heard it, but I had forgotten it. Just for preparing for class, when I saw that, then I was thinking, Maharaj said like this, huh? Oh, really? Because notes were there, I repeated as it is. Somebody asked, ऐसे कैसे आपने बोला कि भक्ति ठाकुर ने कहाँ बोला है? महाराज के क्लासेस सुन लो, मैं उसके बेस पे तो नोट्स बनाए ना, सुन लो क्लासेस शुरुआत में ही बोला है किधर तो नहीं that. So we can see that that we hear so many points like that, but unless we contemplate, it's difficult. Now that what I quoted in the lecture, neither I contemplated, not many others. But now this time it was very striking because dude have become senior and all that. So, and especially for person like Revati Prabhu going to organize only Rath Yatra. So for him, this kind of glorification will be quite nice, isn't it? For everyone, for that matter, because Bhakti Thakur is our acharya only. But हम रथ यात्रा क्यों अरेंज कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि हमारे गुरु के परम गुरु के गुरु भक्तिनाथ ठाकुर ने कहा, हम तो जगन्नाथ को पूरे संसार में हवाई जहाज से लेके जाएंगे प्रचार के लिए. So hearing continuous, that contemplation is very important. That is proper hearing also. Okay. 39 and 40. My dear king, in the place where pure devotees live, following the rules and regulations, and thus purely conscious and engaged with great eagerness in hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In that place, if one gets a chance to hear their constant flow of nectar, which is exactly like the waves of a river, one will forget the necessities of life, namely hunger and thirst, and become immune to all kinds of fear, lamentation, and illusion. So, how many of you feel that you have fear in life? Some fear, small fear, big fear, whatever. How many of you feel there is lamentation also, and some illusion also? So, there is a remedy here. So, this can be seen that we have overcome fear, lamentation, and illusion by forgetting the necessities of life, hunger and thirst. So, this and how that will happen? By putting ourselves in the place where pure devotees live, and they are purely Krishna conscious and hearing and chanting in their midst the glories of the Supreme Land. So, getting a chance to hear their constant flow of nectar, such amazing words are used. Shravana Vyagra Chetasaha. Vyagra Chetasa is what? Eager. Vyagra. Vyagra, we have heard that. I think it's there in Marathi also. Complete kind of absorption. Vyagra ho gaya usme. So eagerness to hear. Nice verses. Yatra Bhagavata Rajan Sadhavo Vishadashayah Bhagavad Gunanukatana Shravana Vyagra Chetasah. Tasmin Mahan Mukharita Madhubhish Charita Piyusha Shesha Saritah Paritah Sravanti Taye Bibanti Avitrusho Nrupa Gadha Karnais Tanna Sprushanti Ashanatru Bhayam Shoka Moha गाढ़ कर्ण गाढ़ कर्ण गाढ़ कर्ण यानी क्या कान को जोर से पकड़ के तो गाढ़ा कान हो जाएगा कान को गाढ़ से नहीं पकड़ना गाढ़ा नहीं पकड़ना है लेकिन कान से जो सुन रहे हैं उसको पकड़ना है वो गाढ़ करना है विथ अटेंशन ग्रेट इगरनेस फॉर्म ईयर्स विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर लैंग्वेज इज फॉर्म ईयर्स मीन्स क्या एकदम जो कान को एकदम खींचे तो फॉर्म कान बन जाएंगे एकदम नहीं वैसे नहीं रैप्ट अटेंशन गुरुमुख पद्म वाक्य चित्ते ते कोरिया ऐक्य चित्त में उसको एक कर लिया है अंदर विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर's commentary is also amazing on this. I'll just read that commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Where will bhakti take place? It takes place where there are devotees with hearts eager to hear about the Lord, just as those attached to house are eager for engaging in household activities. The time for discussions about the Lord, hearing about the Lord, have passed. What great misfortune! Now the time for chanting the Lord's glories has arrived. I am so unfortunate. I have wasted my time in oversleeping and in performing disgusting daily rituals. How can I quickly go to the assembly of devotees? This is all quote unquote. Where are such devotees speaking about the Lord takes place? Where there are such devotees speaking about the Lord takes place. What are the rules? Mukharitaha means topics which accept the mouth, or in other words, topics which reside at all times in the mouths of the devotees. In that assembly of great devotees, Tasmin, the great rivers of nectar of topics of the Lord, which are Prasada, Shesha, are of the great devotees, having been tested by them, and which are continually present in the mouths of the great devotees, Mukharitaha, flow in all directions. Those who drink those rivers, indicating great thirst because of the intense test, not being able to neglect even a drop of those rivers, indicating attraction, thinking that it is never enough, avitrushaha, with ears made sturdy to prevent the nectar from flowing out, Gada Kardai, cannot be touched by hunger and thirst, fear, lamentation, or illusion. They do not have a desire for eating, thinking, where is my food today? Since they have been fed by the devotees. They are fearless since they are not attached to anything. So when we are attached to something, there will be fear. And there is no desire for eating because that where is my food is not thinking. Since they have been fed by the devotees. So devotees feed through our ears. They will give nice Krishna Katha, Krishna Sudha, nectar. So when we hear that, then we will overcome all this hunger. So one point is in this. So when Katha goes little longer, sometimes there, Bhagavatam goes 9:15, 9:30. When they are senior devotees, fine maybe. But other times also, we can little bit extend. How many of you seen that you went right at 9 o'clock to room to take plate, but something came up and then it became delayed by 10, 15, 20 minutes? No, some phone call, something happens, every day, more or less, isn't it? That is the time you can go and take your plate and take prasad, but something comes up. And then we don't mind so much because it is like that. But when Katha goes little longer, then क्या है, क्या है, ऐसे कैसे घड़ी तो इतना बड़ा लगाया है उधर, ये घड़ी मैनेजर ने उधर नहीं लगाना चाहिए, क्योंकि कभी कभी वो देखता नहीं इतना ऊपर, सामने अच्छा था दिख के थोड़ा रिमाइंडर तो मिलता था उसको. तो so much. So this is the katha. This is our fortune. Especially in brahmacharya life, this fortune is so much given, more than we expect. Feel the need. पकड़ पकड़ के इतना पिलाते हैं, इतना खिलाते हैं, like that. So, but actually this is fortune. जिनका नहीं है वो fortune, they aspire for it, they crave for it. हमारा है तो हमें समझ में. Just like Malayas, that woman staying in Malay hills, वो क्या करती है? हाँ, चंदन का लकड़ी काटती है और कुकिंग करती हो, क्योंकि इतना चंदन है तो उसको समझ में नहीं आता कि क्या चंदन का वैल्यू है. हम में से कौन है चंदन को कुकिंग के लिए इस्तेमाल करेंगे? बहुत, नो क्वेश्चन, बट शी इज देयर ओनली, तो उसको समझ में नहीं आता वो क्या है. बहुत चंदन है, काट लो इसको. वही बेचेगी तो बहुत कुछ कमाएगी वो, बट समझ में नहीं आता. He says they have no lamentation or illusion because they have forgotten possessiveness. So no lamentation, no illusion, no fear if we are free from attachment. Mainly it is attachment to body and then eventually bodily related possessions. Aham and mama. In the purport, Prabhupada says after 4-5 lines, when one is engaged in constantly hearing the glories of the Lord, he certainly rises above the bodily conception. Prabhupada's purports are so amazing. Unfortunately, I regret I don't read myself. Then Maya takes over. Maya says, ye problem, wo problem. No problem if you read Prabhupada's purport. If you only hear Guru Mukha Padma, okay, there's no problem in life. When one is engaged in constantly hearing the glories of the Lord, he certainly rises above the bodily conception. Certainly. Rising is for sure, and certainty is for 100% sure. But constant engagement in hearing is one's own initiative. Prabhupada has given his purports. You can anytime pick up any of his books, start reading, and one is above the bodily concept of life. Then after Satam Prasangan, towards the end, Prabhupada writes in that paragraph, the secret of success in the cultivation of Krishna consciousness is hearing from the right person. How fortunate we are. All our gurus, Prabhupada's followers, Prabhupada's disciples, they are all perfectly following Guru. Because they are following right person, Prabhupada, they are all right persons. And we have so many of their lectures, so many of their books also. But only our initiative should be to read them, to hear that, all that. Then the secret of success is there in cultivation of Krishna, is hearing from the right person. How many, unfortunate, like one of my close relatives is going to Rundavan to hear from one Baba, somebody, his so-called guru. He is not in parampara. And what they speak, some goody thing, अच्छा करना चाहिए, लोगों को मदद करना चाहिए, भूखों को कुछ खिलाओ, प्यासों को पानी पिलाओ, something like that, गो सेवा करो, it's a mixture of this, that, water, and sometimes the what you call concepts could be wrong also, at least not pure. So how fortunate we are. Like yesterday I was just looking at the number of devotees. Means we could not count approximate more than 5,000. In fact, I don't, how many of you saw from the start to end? How many of you saw start to end? You went through whole passage. That is good exercise. Otherwise we may not realize. We may say around us there are hundreds of devotees, but then all throughout, start to end, so many. More than 5,000 is saying. That is too much. But I am talking about our own, what we experience. I witnessed here only. So many of them. So I was just thinking how so many devotees and how they are able to come together for one event. वो जगन्नाथ चलेगा, कार्ट आ गया और सबको नाचना है, गाना है, या जो भी करना है उधर, सबको उधर ही रहना है. कैसे हो सका है? I said because Prabhupada is that uniting factor. He has given the philosophy. Everybody has the same philosophy. कोई भी इस्कॉन का वो स्टार्ट से लेके एंड तक किसी को भी पकड़ो, बोले क्या कंसेप्ट है, हम बॉडी नहीं, हम आत्मा है, हम भगवान के दास हैं, भगवान की सेवा करनी है, भक्ति करनी होती है, नवविधा भक्ति है, टॉप मोस्ट नाम संकीर्तन है, वो कर रहे हैं हम सब. अब बाकी कोई श्रवणम कर रहा है, कोई कीर्तनम कर रहा है, यही कर रहे हैं हम. और यही हम मंदिर में भी करते हैं, वैसे अपने घर में भी यही करते हैं, है कि नहीं? देयर इज एब्सोल्युटली नो डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियन as far as philosophy goes in any of the followers of ISKCON, because Prabhupada books are that, they are uniting everyone, nobody can deviate, everybody. And that is not that Prabhupada has given some, what you call, in an arrogant way, my philosophy, everybody has to follow, then only they are my followers. No, it's all coming directly from Krishna in Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, and it's also matching with all the Sampradayas also. The pure philosophy, all 18 Puranas, 108 Upanishads, 4 Vedas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, everything in essence, in conclusion, without any deviation, and easy to understand and apply pattern. Otherwise, there are so many other things also which need not be focused upon, which Prabhupada does not keep focusing. Prabhupada focuses on the most essential items so that no follower will have any kind of deviation. Okay, I think we'll take a gap for some time. Break. I did not give long before. How much? 5 minutes is okay? Oh, 10 minutes. No, but then I know whether I will be able to complete. And also one fear of giving this thing is, I hope they take attendance. We lose devotees. एक बार गए तो आए नहीं. Hope there is attendance again. Anyway, 10 minutes. 5 minutes I said, 15 minutes you said. Average is 10, I think. Is that okay? 10 minutes. So we'll meet after 10 minutes. Hare Krishna. Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I did not go through the sections. I forgot. So 1 to 25 is Narada's elaboration on the allegorical story. 26 to 33, which we already covered, Narada's direct description of material existence. In that he says 26 to 29, the Jiva gets different bodies according to the modes. 30 to 33, the Jiva is wandering like a dog and cannot escape samsara by material means. 34 to 41, which we are almost about to end, Narada gives bhakti as a solution. So bhakti only. No remedy by material means. The only remedy is to surrender to Krishna. That is 34 to 41, of which 40th was our last in discussion. So 41st also we'll see. Because the conditioned soul is always disturbed by the bodily necessities such as hunger and thirst, he has very little time to cultivate attachment to hearing the nectarian words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's purport is very nice. 41. Short purport. So he's saying same thing basically. As much as we are going on with this necessity, hunger and thirst, they have very little time for cultivating attachment to hearing the nectarian topics. So purport by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur: Bhakti will rarely blossom in those afflicted by hunger, thirst, and fear, because they lack absorption in the rasa, caused by habitual lack of enthusiasm for thinking about the topics of the Lord, due to lack of devotee association. So amazing. Last words are very important. Due to lack of devotee association. So we have to know our strength is kind of borrowed strength only. Because of the devotee association, we are having that whole thing, what you call that develops, that builds up, and then we can go on. Just like for last whatever 10:30 to now, If we are alone in this room, same everything same, how many of us would have gone through these purports? Doubtful. Maybe would have started, gone on for half an hour, 15, then when I yesterday Rathayatra, I'm tired, I will go and take a rest. Or the lunch was too heavy. I think little like that. So, but in the devotee association, it goes on because of yesterday tiring thing. So yesterday, one of the senior devotees was asked to lead, but he said, "I'm very tired." But he was participating in the kirtan. He was going on. So likewise, because everybody is there, he is also there. Means anyway, he is very great soul. But similarly, with the current, we can flow. Alone, it is very difficult. So because alone we get tortured by this thing, hunger, thirst, and fear. So then there is lack of absorption in the rasa caused by habitual lack of enthusiasm for thinking about the topics of the Lord. So thinking about the topics of the Lord is very difficult, but at least hearing the topics is possible. But for that, association of devotees is required. Alone, how can we hear, read? Very difficult. So this is 34 to 41. Narada gives bhakti as solution. Now 42 to 55. Narada ends Prachinibhari's performance of rituals. In that also he has subdivided into four. 42 to 45 is Gyanis and Karmis do not know the Lord. Maybe we will discuss that. Gyanis and Karmis do not know the Lord. So here it is 42 to 44. The most powerful Lord Brahma, the father of all progenitors, Lord Shiva, Manu, Daksha, and other rulers of humankind, the four saintly first class brahmacharis headed by Sanaka and Sanatan, the great sages Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrugu, and Vashishta, and my humble self, that is Narada, are all stalwart Brahmins who can speak authoritatively on Vedic literature. We are very powerful because of austerities, meditation, and education. Nonetheless, even after inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom we always see, we do not know perfectly about him. Vishnu Shakti Thakur says, since we do not use bhakti, so what do they use? Austerities, meditation, and education. So by all these things, or any one of those things, they are very powerfully saying. All the names, powerful names are given, powerful personalities. But because bhakti is not there, so then they cannot understand Lord perfectly. So this is Gyanis and Karmis do not know the Lord. Prabhupada in the purport towards the last end, he says all the stars are planets as far as we can see within this one universe. According to Western theory, all the stars are different suns, but according to Vedic information, there is only one sun within this universe. All the so-called stars are but different planets. So the stars what we see are not suns, they're planets. 45th. Despite the cultivation of Vedic knowledge, which is unlimited, and the worship of different demigods by the symptoms of Vedic mantras, demigod worship does not help one to understand the supreme powerful personality of Godhead. Demigod worship is not helpful. Vajrahasta Purandaraha. Purandar has his Vajra in hand. But still he has so many problems also. So much fear also. So Gyanis and Karmis do not know the Lord. That is 42 to 45. 46 to 48 is futility of ritualistic performances. But before that, I am going towards the end, completely the end of the chapter, and thereafter, Prabhupada has given 4 verses, which he says are there in Vijay Dhwaj Tirtha's commentary in Madhvacharya Sampradaya, which appear after 45th verse, which we just discussed. So 1a and 2a. I'm just reading the translation. It is there in his commentary. It is not there in others. A desire to maintain body, wife, and children is also observed in animal society. The animals have full intelligence to manage such affairs. If a human being is simply advanced in this respect, what is the difference between him and an animal? One should be very careful to understand that this human life is attained after many, many births in the evolutionary process. A learned man who gives up the bodily conception of life, both gross and subtle, will, by the enlightenment of spiritual knowledge, become a prominent individual spirit soul, as the Supreme Lord is also. What we have heard in Mahabharata, what is that? Ahar nidra bhayamaithunam cha. सामान्यम एतत् पशुभिर नराणाम धर्मो हि तेषाम अधिको विशेषो धर्मेण हि न पशुभिर समाना. Something similar, but last line is very nice. A learned man who gives up the bodily conception of life, both gross and subtle, will become a prominent individual spirit soul. So all souls are prominent. Just like we say that Chetanas Chetananam, among all conscious beings, one is supremely conscious. Similarly, Nityo Nityanam, all are eternal only, but one is supremely eternal. So as Lord is very prominent, like that, a leader, a learned man who gives a bodily conception of life. So whole stress is on giving a bodily concept of life. By enlightenment of spiritual knowledge, he'll become prominent individual spirit soul. So we can see also in within Krishna consciousness also, all those who advance very nicely, they become very prominent. Prabhupada in purport says that the animals are not rational is untrue. Their rationality, however, is not very advanced. We hear in our device classes that if the cat wants to drink milk, she knows not in the presence of mother. She should be out. Then she will come inside the kitchen and drink. So they have that rationality. But it is limited to eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's all. It cannot go beyond that. In 1b, translation says, if a living entity is developed in Krishna consciousness and is merciful to others, and if his spiritual knowledge of self-realization is perfect, he will immediately attain liberation from the bondage of material existence. So one extra thing is there. Daya jiveshu. Jiv daya. For the sake of Sarvalakshan Prabhu. Vijay Tirtha's commentary is very important. Bhakti Krishne daya jiveshu. So that means mercy to other living entities indicate that a living entity must be merciful to other living entities if he wishes to make progress in self-realization. That's why these missionary activities are very important. Like Ratha Yatra was combined effort of all, everybody was included. I was just thinking also in the little recess that our congregation is so big, maybe many of us did not know this so well, isn't it? Because I was thinking, but we have Janmashtami, Gaurang. But then also what happens? We don't have them all there, it seems. Some are here, some are there. Like yesterday was more or less everybody was on the street only. There will be some devotees who might be there, where prasadam serving and all, but more or less kind of, they were there. Such a huge congregation we have. So all are engaged in missionary activities. So, but consciously also, we should put ourselves into missionary activities, giving Krishna to others. Jiva Daya. This is the best thing to do. We can give food to others, we can give clothes to others, but nothing like giving Krishna to others. Prabhupada and Malhotraji's discussion. Why are you building such a huge 2 crore rupees worth temple? Why not give poor people some food, etc.? Proper story that Mr. Tata or Birla, so son is lost, yeah, giving food, giving clothes, medicine, but nothing like taking him to father. Father will give him everything. So missionary activities are the best thing. Dayaji Veshu. Within that we can give prasad, like we give to beggars also, but then we give prasad and we tell them chant Hare Krishna. At least if they are not able to chant, we will, let's say all the dumb people are there somehow and you are distributing prasad there. What will you do? We will chant Hare Krishna. We'll have some devotee chanting Hare Krishna, or we'll put proper dhun, isn't it? So we are so shrewd, so smart, isn't it? We know Krishna's mercy in one way is going, prasad, but the other way also could be there. Maybe at the end we'll have book table also for them. So give Krishna to others as much as possible in so many different ways, especially acceptable by them. Now very illiterate people are there. Maybe sometimes what you do, sometimes in book distribution people say, अरे महाराज हम तो अनपढ़ है, हम क्या पढ़ेंगे? ऐसा आपको किसी ने बोला? नहीं, हम पढ़ नहीं सकते तो हम क्या लें? पैसे हैं ले सकते हैं, लेकिन हम तो पढ़ना नहीं जानते. What will you tell him? Chant Hare Krishna. Okay, one thing. Worshipful, keep it in the altar or somewhere. Haldi kumkum पे लगाओ. हाँ, that's what I tell. अरे बाबा आप नहीं पढ़े लिखे, आपका बेटा तो है ना, बेटी तो है ना, कोई नहीं तो बाजू के पड़ोस के बच्चे को बुलाइए, उसके हाथ में दीजिए, उसको थोड़ा 15-20 मिनट पढ़ जोर से, वो पढ़ेगा आप समझेंगे, और उसको एंड में लड्डू वगैरह दे दीजिए कुछ, वो भी खुश हो जाएगा, रोज आएगा पढ़ने के लिए। दिस इज अनदर, एनी अदर, somebody says anything else? गिफ्ट के रूप में किसी को दीजिए, ओके। थर्ड, एनी अदर? ओके, सो आई थिंक दीज आर द 3 ways। तो कोई अनपढ़ भी होगा तो हम उसको भी नहीं छोड़ेंगे, उसको भी कृष्ण की कृपा मिलनी ही चाहिए। तो उसको प्रसाद भी देंगे हम, बट वी वांट हिम टू टेक बुक आल्सो। हाँ, कट में तो ले लेता हूँ। ये भी अच्छा है उनका, बाबा अगर फ्री में देंगे तो लेंगे कि हाँ हाँ लूंगा ना, तो देखिए बाबा फ्री में है तो लेते हैं ना, और पैसे भी तो है आपके पास, पैसे दे दीजिए, ज्यादा लाभ होगा। दिस इज द फोर्थ टेक्निक। हाँ, मैं वेन दे से ना ये फ्री में है क्या, हाँ ये किताब फ्री में है, इसका जो प्रिंटिंग का कॉस्ट है वो सिर्फ हम ले रहे हैं, बस ज्ञान फ्री में। आप मुझे 10,000 प्रश्न पूछो, सबके आंसर दूंगा फ्री में, लेकिन ये जो किताब छापने के लिए थोड़ा लगता है ना, तो वो ले रहे हैं हम आपसे। So living entity must be merciful to other living entities if he wishes to make progress in self-relation. Very important line. Prabhupada is giving in purport. Mercy to other living entities indicate that a living entity must be merciful to other living entities if he wishes to make progress in self-realization. How could we connect? Basically, because of our envy to Krishna, we have come to this material world. And how to know that I have overcome my envy to Krishna? By showing how I have overcome my mercy to other living entities. Very simple. So I give them mercy. Certainly they are small, they are not so advanced maybe, so they cannot take this, that. So I will give in some other way. Give them prasad. Like Prabhupada gave ISKCON bullets because they were hippies, means not so maybe interested in education and all that. But prasad to अच्छा लगता है सबको, लेकिन so give Krishna in any way that they can understand, accept, but must give, because mercy to other living entities is very, very important factor. Oh, one thing I did, I went into 1B only, which is to be discussed after 79th. So after 45th verse, according to Vijay Dhaj Tirtha, 1A, 2A, these are the two slokas. And now 1B, 2B is after 79th. We'll discuss hopefully in our discussion. So we'll go back to 46th now. When a person is fully engaged, 46 to 48 is futility of ritualistic performances. When a person is fully engaged in devotional service, he is favored by the Lord, who bestows his causeless mercy. At such a time, the awakened devotee gives up all material activities and ritualistic performances mentioned in the Vedas. So sometimes our relatives may call, sometimes, for some rituals. We may go, our heart is not there. For grahasthas, maybe all the more so. More functions. Functions means ritualistic ceremonies to attend, maybe. Like my brother said, your mother's that Varsha Shraddha, so you have to come. Some things have to be done. I said, okay, I'll come. As much as possible, we'll chant Hare Krishna there. Like that. That's what I did when she left body also. She was on my lap, only her head was kept on my lap. And I was chanting Hare Krishna. And devotees were there. Uradang Kartal, Kirtan was going. All throughout we had that only. Some other rituals were going on. They put this, that, haldi kumkum, ye wo, like that. So we can do them. But our most important is chanting Hare Krishna. What is the proof? Huh? Where? Yes, Krishna Balram temple inauguration. Because there were Smarta Brahmins and all in Vrindavan who would not have accepted our Krishna Balram temple inauguration, installation of the deities, without those Vedic mantras chanted by Brahmins. So all those Brahmanas were hired, they were doing this, that. That was in the forefront, in front. But backside, devotees were doing Harinam Sankirtan. And Prabhupada said the real installation is taking place there, backside. Means that you cannot tell to Brahmins. But that is most important. Like that. So any ceremony, and it's like a child is born, a person is dead, somebody is getting married, or somebody is sick. Everywhere, what we do? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And this is only is saving grace. All other rituals we can do because otherwise people will say, "Kya hai ye? Kuch bhi hai." अरे उधर देखा वो लड़के का जन्म हुआ तो उन्हें हरे कृष्ण हुआ, इधर आदमी मर गया तो भी हरे कृष्ण। ऐसे थोड़ी होता है, हर ओकेजन में अलग अलग होना चाहिए ना, ये डिजीज के लिए ये, वो डिजीज के लिए वो, ऐसे थोड़ी हर डिजीज के लिए एक ही दवाई खाओ। हाँ। ओम टू टूम, ब्राह्मण उपाय, ओके रामबाण, ओके रामबाण उपाय, yes. So that is, that conviction we have to have proper, that's what he did. Everywhere, especially in the west, but in India certain, that protocol in a sense, ritualist people, so we have to do certain things, but otherwise complete conviction should be there. This is it, it's favored by the Lord. So in the purport, Prabhupada says in the 46th verse, Atma Bhavitah indicates that the Lord is awakened in one's mind if one constantly thinks of him. So this is our aspiration, Smaranam. Yam yam vapi Smaran Bhavam. At the last moment of our life, we all don't know how would we be, what situation we would be in. So some of us fortunate enough, we may able to chant Hare Krishna. Some other devotees may chant for us, and we may be able to hear at least. But sometimes even a coma, sometimes in the last stage, in coma also we may leave body. So in coma only, devotees are chanting around, but in one sense the soul can hear maybe, but the smaranam is possible by Lord's grace. What he says, Tesham aham tasam tesham evanu kampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. Chatushloki Bhagavata. So Krishna has given that promise. But for whom? Tesham evanu kampartham. Who are those Tesham? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantide. So this is what he's saying. Atma Bhavita indicates that the Lord is awakened in one's mind if one constantly thinks of him. So to be able to think of him constantly, we have to hear and chant about him constantly. So chanting we cannot do 24 hours on our sadhaka stage, I'm saying. Kirtaniya Sadahari, that is recommended by Mahaprabhu, valid. But I have difficulty. So we can do hearing then, Shravanam. So combination of Shravanam, Kirtanam, as much as possible. As much as is possible, along with everything else. While taking prasad, like we have very great fortune while taking prasadam, or His Grace Raghu Prabhu reads for us. We can hear a bit, hear it. I have seen Rup Goswami Prabhu. I appreciate him. Hey, कौन है वो इतना जोर से कौन बोल रहा है? Because even if he is reading, there are so many devotees talking so many things. Certainly, I understand that little socialization is required, but ideally during prasadam we should not speak. There is no record of Prabhupada ever speaking in any of his meals. Silent. Chapati bhi chahiye to some indication would be there, and anyway they would get it promptly beforehand only. But Prabhupada did not speak. So world Acharya, running 108 temples. My God, अपना एक दो चार सेंटर हो गया तो दिमाग घूम जाता है. पर कुछ है ही नहीं तो भी इतना टॉक. So we can take peacefully and hear that nice. He is reading anyway, right? हाँ, आसन कौन सा वाला? प्रभु जी का अपना ये वैदिक लाइफस्टाइल, खड़े होके नहीं खाना है, सबको बैठ, वो बोल रहे कोई तो, अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा. ओके ओके, मैनेजमेंट, हरि अंतदीप, आई थिंक यू आर द ओनली मैनेजरियल पर्सन हियर. अच्छा हाँ, सर्वलक्ष्मी, सॉरी आई फॉरगॉट द टॉप. प्रभु अरेंज फॉर सर्विंग. नहीं, एक प्रपोजल है उनका, इनडायरेक्टली आया, अभी आगे जाते हैं नहीं तो फिर इधर पूरा प्रसादम का मैनेजमेंट मीटिंग, और लोग बोलेंगे आपको किसने बोला था मैनेजमेंट मीटिंग के लिए. Okay, again, ahead in the second paragraph after Yanti Devar Devan, Prabhupada is saying the word Atma Bhavitaha also indicates that the devotee is always engaged in preaching to deliver conditioned souls. So, say, how much stress is there on preaching, preaching, preaching? This was my question कि जो मैं पहले, not now, earlier, so much book distribution के लिए madness, hardly any score, small score only, कभी 10 गया small book, कभी 15, इतना क्यों पागल की तरह है ना? जीबीसी नहीं बोल रहे, गुरु नहीं बोल रहे डायरेक्टली, प्रेसिडेंट नहीं बोल रहे, मैनेजर नहीं बोल रहे, ना तो मेरे फ्रेंड सर्कल में कोई बोल रहा है कि पुस्तक वितरण करने के लिए जाना चाहिए, ये होता क्यों ऐसा, व्हाई दैट सो मच स्पिरिट इज देयर, दिस वाज दोज डेज, नाउ आई डोंट हैव. तो इट वेंट 4-5 months पास पे, आई वाज थिंकिंग है कहाँ से, कोई तो बोल तो नहीं रहा है, कोई मतलब कोई कैसे नहीं बोल रहा है, प्रभुपाद बोल रहे हैं, जिनके परपोर्ट में इतना पढ़ रहा हूँ. उन दिनों में काफी पढ़ते थे हम, 1 hour मिनिमम, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4, sometimes 5-6 hours also, sometimes once also 8 hours also in one day. तो इतना सुनेंगे प्रभुपाद से, तो और क्या होगा. Just like if you read this book, Servant of the Servant, towards the end in particular, read in sequence, but towards the end, if you read, you will go crazy for book distribution. The way they did it, Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan bus party in all over America, the way they did the figures and all, it will boil your blood for book distribution. You will go crazy. As soon as you keep down that book, you will pick up the books and go out for distribution. Hope you don't come back saying, Pachi books gave mere. But it is like that. So it's very important that we preach. So for Smaranam also, as Prabhupada said earlier, we need to do chanting, and chanting, as I said, continuously not possible. So hearing. So hearing, chanting. Prabhupada stress on hearing, chanting is so much all throughout its purports. If you keep reading, you will understand. Hearing, chanting, hearing, chanting, hearing, chanting. And automatically you will have Smaranam for sure. 108% guarantee. Smaranam of Lord will increase in your life. And hopefully, before our final moment, we would be accomplished, and Krishna will give us remembrance at that final moment. Because he will say that you all throughout you did hearing, chanting, and Smaranam, remembering. So I now, when your last critical moment, Prane Prayana Samaye, Kaphavata Pitte, when you are not able to do that by your gross physical body, I will give you that remembrance. Because that's what you did for me all throughout your life. So that is our only prayer. Towards the end, the Prabhupada means in that paragraph, Prabhupada says, Adurlabham Atma Bhakto. The Lord is realized only by a sincere devotee. So we want to be his sincere devotees. Then 47, okay, that is still continuing, that futility of ritualistic performances. My dear King Barhishman, you should never you should never out of ignorance take to the Vedic rituals or to fruitive activity which may be pleasing to hear about or which may appear to be the goal of self-interest. You should never take this to be the ultimate goal of life. So it depends on what we consider to be self. We consider self to be the body, then yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti abhipashyataha. What is ahead? Vedavadarata pata stitimadana. Then the next verse. Sarga janma. So these flowery words of the Vedas. Huh? Purport में है क्या? अच्छा इधर ही है क्या? Okay. Actually, Prabhupada has given everything. We don't have to break our head so much. Okay. So, okay. Kamat manas swarga para janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogeshwarya gatim prati. So they only get carried away by all this. I want this, that. So because they think self to be the body. So okay, this self will not be in this body. Some other body. Okay, for that body, let me have nice, beautiful girls in heaven and this and that. So let me do this, all the performances, karma kandi section. But no, he said no, one should not go for that. By the way, what is Narad Muni? What is he called as? What does he carry of the Lord? Bhakti Shakti, So how a powerful proponent of bhakti. He directly saying no rituals. Now he's coming to the point only. No beating around. Earlier, not that he was beating around, but he told that allegorical story in such a big way. But the point had to be driven. Now, when Parachini Parishad is revealing his humility, simplicity, Narad Muni is directly telling him that you should never out of ignorance take to the Vedic rituals or to fruitive activity, which may be pleasing to hear about or which may appear to be the goal of self-interest. You should never take these things to be the ultimate goal of. Already he has told about bhakti, which we discussed earlier. Narada gives bhakti as solution, and now here is condemning all these rituals also. 48. Those who are less intelligent accept the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies as all in all. They do not know that the purpose of the Vedas is to understand one's own home, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead lives. Not being interested in their real home, they are illusioned and search after other homes. So lokam, na viduste. They don't know about their real home. So they get into many other things. Now next 49 to 51, he's talking about pleasing the Lord is the supreme activity. 3 verses. My dear king, the entire world is covered with the sharp points of Kushagras, and on the strength of this, you have become proud because you have killed various types of animals in sacrifices. Because of your foolishness, you do not know that devotional service is the only way one can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You cannot understand this fact. Your only activities should be those that can please this Personality of Godhead. Our education should be such that we can become elevated to Krishna consciousness. So that's how we should also preach. Sometimes I play with the children and I tell them, तो आगे जाके क्या करोगे तुम, जो भी नाम है आज वगैरह, क्या बनोगे तुम? मैं प्रभु जी डॉक्टर बनूंगा. ऐसे डॉक्टर डॉक्टर नहीं, हमें क्या बनना है? भक्त बनना है. भक्त बनना है ये तो माता पिता ने कभी सीखा ही नहीं. डॉक्टर बनना है, वकील बनना है, लॉयर बनना है, या जो भी है, इंजीनियर बनना है. So this is not the goal. Our education should be such that we can become elevated to Krishna consciousness. This is the training, and it should be given from beginning only. Ideally, parents only should be devotees. Garbhadan Sanskar only, they should pray that we get Prahlad like son or whatever, Janva Mataji like child, daughter or whatever. I was hearing little bit of Her Grace Urmila Mataji lecture, 2018 GBC College. She was one of the speakers. So Radhesham Brudhu introduction, and then I was hearing her. So she had chosen 4.12 point, I don't remember the verse number. Nanda Sunanda Uchuhu. The two, Nanda and Sunanda. Who are they? He knows. Oh, they are Jai Vijay. Associates of Dhruv Maharaj. Lord Vishnu's, these pilots. Vishnu Dutas. Okay, chalo. Vishnu Parshadas, who came to take Dhruva Maharaj to Vaikunta. So when they come, they speak some things. And Prabhupada in purport says, please hear, my dear Dhruva Maharaj, with attention. So what they are saying, Prabhupada in the whole purport, she had chosen that. Why? Prabhupada says, any child can be trained from age 5 only. And he can reach perfection of Krishna consciousness. But from 5 only, he has to be trained. And all throughout life, he has to be trained. And that's why Mataji has done 30 years of record she has of teaching to children, and so many things are there with her. So amazing. So we can be taught all these things. So children should be taught all these things. Otherwise, I want to be doctor, I want to be engineer, I want to be IS. Yeah, no value. Worldly sense it has. But at least our Krishna conscious children, we can teach to them. Ideally, parents should only teach, and then brahmacharis can also teach them. For livelihood, okay, you may do this and that, but that should not be the goal. Goal should be, I want to be a devotee, a sincere devotee following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj. Sometimes children are very nicely taught Narsimha and they sing also. Beta gao Narsimha, Namaste Narasimhaya. He'll sing nicely, melodiously. But if you ask him what you want to be in future, I want to be Hiranyakashipu. I want to be doctor, I want to be engineer. ना अरे बेटा, गाया तूने नरसिम्हा आरती, प्रहलाद का गुण गाए, तो हिरण्यकशिपु क्यों बनना चाहते? नहीं, उनका भी तो नाम आया था 2 बार. नहीं, उनको मत फॉलो करो. So we have to train them not in just learning how to sing Narsimha Arti, but also how to follow in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, making him as our ideal. Next, 50th. Shri Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the super soul and guide of all living entities who have accepted material bodies within this world. He is the supreme controller of all material activities and material nature. He is also our best friend, and everyone should take shelter of his lotus feet. In doing so, one's life will be auspicious. So this kind of training was there earlier. If you read in the 7th Goswami, when Bhakti Vinod Thakur was a small boy, Kedarnath, so that time he was fearful. In somewhere there was a ghost in the tree or somewhere. So some watchman or somebody told him that you chant the name of Ram. You continuously keep chanting the name of Ram, ghost cannot do anything to you, cannot haunt. So while passing through that area, he would chant Ram, 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 Ram. So see how they were trained in the Vedic time, children. So that should be. Krishna is only our friend. Everyone should take shelter of his lotus feet. So this kind of solid training should be given to children. Certainly, it should not be forced upon them. Sometimes it becomes too much. Parents in particular do. सुबह सुबह उसको उठा के लेके आते मंगल आरती में वगैरह. So that has to be a little carefully done. Gurukul is the best thing, and step by step they should be trained. It should not go to the either extremes. It should be in a balanced, moderate way. Saying next 51st is saying, Savai priyatamascha atma yato na bhayam anvapi. One who is engaged in devotional service has not the least fear in material existence. This is because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the super soul and friend of everyone. One who knows this secret is actually educated, and one thus educated can become the spiritual master of the world. One who is an actually bona fide spiritual master, representative of Krishna, is not different from Krishna. So we can say all our fear is because of not engaged in devotional service properly. So he's saying one who is engaged in devotional service has not the least fear in material existence. So we all accept we have some fear of this type, fear of that type, fear of. So that is only because not doing bhakti properly. Last few lines of the purport purpose is Guru Harihi. Consulting a bona fide spiritual master means consulting the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally. Somewhere else also he says, what he says, anybody remembers? Tantamount to seeing the Supreme Lord face to face, something like that. What is that before? Acha, हाँ, there only. हाँ, I think that purport purposes. हाँ, that in that only. But anybody remembers as it is? Hearing from spiritual master is tantamount to seeing the Lord face to face, something like that. Instruction of the spiritual master. So consulting a bona fide spiritual master means consulting the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally. So personally, face to face, similar things are there. One should therefore take shelter of such a bona fide spiritual master. Success in life means accepting a spiritual master who knows Krishna as the one only supreme beloved personality. So all of us may say that, yes, I have my spiritual master. I am initiated after all. But what Prabhupada says is something deeper also. Success in life means accepting a spiritual master who knows Krishna is the only supreme beloved personality. So we need to hear Guru. And we have to come to conclusion, my Guru, he knows that Krishna is the only beloved personality. For my Guru, Krishna is the only beloved personality. This conviction we should have. This conviction we should have. For my spiritual master, Krishna is the only beloved personality. He can forsake anything and everything for Krishna. He has already, but he does it every moment also. So that conviction we have, then that is success, because we have accepted the spiritual master as the one who has Krishna as his only supreme beloved personality. Then 52 to 55, 4 verses talk about deer analogy, allegory. So one more 4 verse allegory he has given. 52nd, the great sage Narada continued, "O great personality, I have replied properly about all that you have asked me. Now here another narration that is accepted by saintly persons and is very confidential." So this, why there is another, any idea? Already he spoke such a elaborate allegory which went in 4 chapters. Now why is he speaking another allegory, though for 4 verses? Yes, that is the thing. Then I will leave, because they are not here. Whom would I hand over the kingdom to? My sons have to come back, na? When they come back, I'm convinced, I'm clear. I will do that, but not now. So that is the answer. To make him immediately leave the house, since he was considering Prachetas to come back, then he would leave for forest. But no, Narad Muni doesn't want him to wait for Prachetas to come back. Immediately you have to leave. So he's giving this small, though 4 verses, you can see how powerful it is. And again, it is story of all of us again. In the, he's saying now here another narration that is accepted by saintly persons and is very confident. In the purport middle, Prabhupada says, this is the position of most people. They accept a bona fide spiritual master and listen to him. But when the spiritual master indicates that they should leave home and fully engage in devotional service, they hesitate. The duty of the spiritual master is to instruct the disciple as long as he does not come to the understanding that this materialistic way of life, fruitive activity, is not at all beneficial. So, physically also living, or at least living, not keeping interest in materialistic way of life, family affairs, and all that, that is very much condemned. So, many people, he is saying, they accept spiritual master, they listen to him, but when the spiritual master indicates that they should leave home and fully engage in devotional service, they hesitate. Certainly, the brahmachari training is not there for many existing grahasthas of ISKCON. So that's why Vanaprastha ashram is not wholeheartedly embraced. But that has to be given as much as possible, so that either at least physically they give, or if not physically, at least they don't get interest, develop interest, or continue their interest in family affairs. That can be handed over to the children, grown up children, and they should fully focus on Krishna consciousness. Some people, few individuals are there who have given up their thing and they have gone to Mayapur, Vrindavan, and all. Some have, without the consultation of Guru, also have gone. That is another story. But it should be in accordance with Guru's instruction. So why Prabhupada is saying this? Because Prachinibari is not yet still ready for going, leaving the kingdom. That's why Prabhupada is saying in ISKCON scenario. How many people accept Guru, listen to him, but don't follow that? Hesitation to give up everything material. 53rd, my dear king, please search out that deer who is engaged in eating grass in a very nice flower garden along with his wife. That deer is very much attached to his business and he's enjoying the sweet singing of the bumblebees in his garden. Just try to understand his position. He's unaware that before him is a tiger which is accustomed to living at the cost of another's flesh. Behind the deer is a hunter who is threatening to pierce him with sharp arrows. Thus, the deer's death is imminent. Like that. We can see that earlier what purport part we read, so that can be shown to grahasthas, especially those who are approaching 40, 45. The Prabhu, what Prabhupada is saying, that just accepting Guru and listening to is not enough. You should wholeheartedly embrace Krishna consciousness and reduce or remove your attraction for materialistic family life. Just like even in the materialistic families, also it is seen that even after the daughter-in-law comes home, the mother-in-law so much interferes. It becomes headache for her. अरे मेरा कुछ चलता ही नहीं इधर ये lady. So she should be like Vanaprasthi, who, husband goes for sannyas, she comes home. So she is into house only for devotional activities, and she doesn't keep interfering in आज क्या सब्जी बना रही, वो क्यों बना रही है, वो अच्छा नहीं. All that, she should not interfere like that. She should withdraw. She should only chant Hare Krishna. कुछ मिला थोड़ा, बहू ने कुछ कुक किया, भगवान को ऑफर किया, प्रसाद लिया, अपना chanting, hearing, like that. So that should be the way, if at all they are at home. Lady is there, and if the husband is also at home, that Vanaprastha, he should also not involve in the family affairs. He should be rendering service to temple. Temple should be able to identify कि अपना आदमी है. Whenever we want, we can call him for bhog offering. We can call him for some service leading, like that. And similarly, all of us also, as we grow in Krishna consciousness departments, we should withdraw also where it is required. Some young devotees are there, so they should be handed over. If they are ready to take whole sincere responsibility, we should withdraw. नहीं नहीं, अभी हम तो सीनियर हैं, हम बहुत जानते हैं, ये डिपार्टमेंट मैंने शुरू किया, ये मैंने डेवलप किया भाई, अभी हम आप ऐसे कैसे बाहर, ये कोई तरीका है क्या ये. Like it so happened in the Radha Gopinath temple yatra management also, as far as this reception and all that, when the so many thousands of registered devotees come, so it was like a very difficult thing, and unless you kind of computerize it and all, it's very difficult. And older generation of devotees, for them computerized way of working and all, because we have not dealt, in my whole life I have done engineering, but computer, like all 10 fingers would be ready, वो ए दबाने लगे, ए दिख ही नहीं रहा है वो, ऐसा हमारा इंजीनियरिंग हो गया. After coming to ISKCON, I learned more like that. So old generation, those who are before us, for them, dealing with computer not so easy. So unless you make it little more better systematic approach, how would you take care of so many devotees? So there was little bit that went on, where Maharaj gave a final decision. No, hand it over. to young devotees. And you can be heading those things which are guiding them and overseeing, that is okay. But give them. Otherwise, nobody is happy properly. They are not happy, nor are the yatris are happy. So we have to know our limits also. Better hand over to somebody else. Our Sarvalakshan Prabhu hands over his mobile also to somebody for hi-fi. Even I do that. हमें समझ में आता ये ऐप वो ऐप क्या पता वो व्हाट्सअप कैसे करना है वो भी पता नहीं तो व्हाट टू स्पीक ऑफ. सो वी शुड हैंड ओवर. सम थिंग्स हैव टू बी परमानेंटली हैंडेड ओवर आल्सो. क्योंकि हमें भी वानप्रस्थ बनना चाहिए क्योंकि हम भी गृहस्थ है ना. तो यार अटैच्ड. गृहस्थ मीन्स अटैच्ड फेलो बेसिकली. तो हमें भी थोड़ा डिटैच होना चाहिए. हैंड ओवर लेट गो एंड लिव फ्रीली. त्यागा शांतिर अनंतरम. अच्छे से जप कर सकते हैं. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Just like in 2013 I was heading book distribution, so I did all that front like that. So after few that over, Sri Kuchanpur told me, ना अरे तुम क्यों उस बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन डिपार्टमेंट में इतना ये कर रहे हो. मतलब मुझे हेड बनाया था ना उसका. बोले नहीं, he's always Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj wants Sarvalakshan Prabhu to head it and he is ready, but then you are in so much. अरे मुझे किसी ने बताया नहीं है ऐसे कि महाराज वांट्स एंड ऐसा आप सबका डिसीजन. कोई बताएगा तो ना. मुझे तो 2008 में राधेश्याम प्रभु ने बोला कि बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन इंचार्ज, तो मैं वही लेके चल रहा था आगे. अभी मुझे क्या पता ऐसा है. तो अब भी मुझे पता चला. अब भी देखो. देन आफ्टरवर्ड्स आई डिड नॉट इंटरफियर ऑन दैट. गए नहीं मैं उधर और कुछ किया ही नहीं हमने. खाली अर्थात वो बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन स्कोर उनके सेवक के रूप में हम कर रहे हैं. बट तो वो गया, उन्होंने अच्छे से संभाला एंड ही हैज मेड इट सो नाइस बिग ह्यूज. So scores have increased. Krishna had already indicated 2012 75,000 Mahabiks, 2013 75,000 Mahabiks only. So it was very clear कि अभी निकलो तुम बाहर, आगे बहुत सारे खिलाड़ी है वो अच्छे से उसको डेवलप करेंगे, तुम उधर मत ये करो. So when we just नहीं मैं छोड़ूंगा नहीं, तो क्या ना ऐसे टसल्स में neither we help Prabhupada's mission to grow nor is devotee community happy. वो देखते हैं कि कितने अटैच्ड है हमारे लीडर्स, छोड़ते ही नहीं. जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना बाहर वाले पॉलिटिशियन, मर जाऊंगा लेकिन अपनी कुर्सी को नहीं छोड़ूंगा. कुर्सी के साथ ही उठा के लेके जाना स्मशान में, जलाना वो कुर्सी के ऊपर ही लकड़ी की जरूरत नहीं. और बताना सबको कि मरने के बाद भी वो कुर्सी से हटे नहीं थे. तो इतना नहीं. समटाइम्स आई हैव सीन वन कार्टून, उसमें at a particular time and indications also come from our superiors, तो छोड़ देना चाहिए. And some other times we are in some other things are given that also we can accept for the pleasure of our superiors. Okay, anyway, we'll go fast. My dear king, please search out that we said, engaged in eating grass. So that is on insignificant, grass. That is what Vishnu Shakti Thakur says. क्या ग्रास खा रहा है वो? इनसिग्निफिकेंट ग्रास है. ग्रहम यदि सुखम हि तुच्छम. व्हाट इज दैट? पुंसा व्हाट इज द बिगिनिंग? एन मैथुनादि ग्रहम यदि सुखम हि तुच्छम. अरे क्या तुम वो सुखम तुच्छम, अभी हो गए 50 साल, अभी छोड़ दो इसको. हो गए तब जरूरी था वर्णाश्रम के अनुसार, फाइन. नाउ छोड़ दो. गेट आउट. Search out that deer who is getting into all this insignificant and what is awake waiting for it, that he doesn't know. Death is coming closer. Similarly, all of us as senior, sometimes some prove senior devotee hai, so what I tell them, senior means he will pass out first, pass away first. कॉलेज में पहले कौन पास आउट होता है, सीनियर के जूनियर? कौन? सीनियर मोस्टली. कभी कभी उल्टा होता है, वो अलग है. कॉलेज में पहले सीनियर पास आउट होता है, बाद में जूनियर. सो सीनियर डिवोटी मीन्स ही विल पास अवे फर्स्ट, जनरली स्पीकिंग. Just like when we are passing away, there will be many PDC devotees there, but we will be few. So we have to know that my death is awaiting, and backside also so many things are there, so not getting into it. 54th, my dear king, woman who is very attractive in the beginning but in the end very disturbing is exactly like the flower which is attractive in the beginning and detestable at the end. With woman, the living entity is entangled with lusty desires, and he enjoys sex just as one enjoys the aroma of a flower. He thus enjoys a life of sense gratification from his tongue to his genitals, and in this way, the living entity considers himself very happy in family life. United with his wife, he always remains absorbed in such thoughts. He feels great pleasure in hearing the talks of his wife and children, which are like the sweet humming of bumblebees that collect honey from flower to flower. He forgets that before him is time, which is taking away his lifespan with the passing of day and night. He does not see the gradual diminishing of his life, nor does he care about the superintendent of death who is trying to kill him from behind. Just try to understand this. You are in a precarious position and are threatened from all sides. So all of us have seen on birth and beyond birth and death book earlier, I think. That photo was there, that lady giving birth to child and growing and all. And this side, that kind of death, he has his swords, and in that the old man slowly, slowly, gradually becoming old, bending and then entering in it. Left side he is entering, and right side that lady is giving birth. So that is our situation. Mm. Continuously we are harassed by this samsara chakra. So one should not get carried away by it. Prabhupada in purport. Materialistic life means forgetting one's constitutional position as the eternal servant of Krishna. And this forgetfulness is especially enhanced in the Grahastha ashram. So all the details are given, how he gets carried away. Prahlad Maharaj also tells that. Katham priyayam anukampitayam. When one gets married, oh, my wife at home, what she might be doing. And he keeps calling her. So, what are you doing? I am in the market to purchase. Oh, so nice. After some time, so what are you doing now? I have just purchased sabji, bhendi sabji. Oh, so nice. After some time, so what are you doing now? I'm just hired a auto. I sat in the auto. Oh, so nice. Now what? I'm just about to reach house. So much commentary he keeps hearing. Because Acharya's commentary he has not heard. So he likes to hear wife, katham priyayam anukampitayam. So family life takes one away. So this is similar case with brahmacharis also, our department and all that. Certainly on behalf of Guru, for Guru's pleasure, I have to take care of it. But otherwise, my consciousness should not be into my department, all that. So that should be careful. One should not, on the false ego plane, get into all that thing. Any kind of attachment will lead to fear and many other problems. Especially chanting will be hampered. That is the biggest problem. That aham mama completely pervades all the 16 rounds, and one cannot call out to Krishna because identity is only wrong, foundation only wrong. So what can how can you build castles on the sand? That will all collapse. Little ahead towards the end of the paragraph, proposes a person attached to Grahastha ashram is always thinking of these two things: palatable food and sex enjoyment. So tongue and genital, the two pleasures wife gives. Nice palatable food stuff she gives, and sex pleasure, and he feels this is perfection. Towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, unfortunately, so-called followers of Vedic life do not give up their family even at the end of life, unless they are forced by death. There should be a thorough overhauling of the social system, and society should revert to the Vedic principles. That is the four varnas and the four ashrams. What Prabhupada's words are, there should be a thorough overhauling of the social system. Overhauling नहीं बोल रहे, क्या बोल रहे? Thorough overhauling. Thorough means you understand, na? So this is our responsibility. Slowly, slowly, step by step. As I said, because brahmacharya training is not there from the beginning, so that's why it's not so easy. So in fact, it is said those who stayed as brahmacharis, when they go for married life, even they become like, अरे अभी मेरे 10 साल इधर आश्रम में जो गए हैं उसका compensation करना है. I have to have a big job, and have to, like one of the brahmacharis while leaving ashram, he said, I want 75,000 rupees per month. ऐसा जॉब होना चाहिए. Because I am from IIT, all my friends are earning minimum 1 lakh. So I have to have at least 75,000. So that means, you understand? Staying in ashram, what it, okay, by Krishna's grace, one gets 75,000. Why 75 can get 1.5 lakhs, 2 lakhs also. But not every time possible, especially somebody who gave up whatever that, and stayed in ashram for quite long. So this is the problem, because varnashram is not in place. Then even those who have gone through brahmachari life, they may have big materialistic ambitions. So that is not proper. Next, 55th. That allegory continues. My dear king, just try to understand the allegorical position of the deer. Be fully conscious of yourself and give up the pleasure of hearing about promotion to heavenly planets by fruitive activity. Give up household life, which is full of sex, as well as stories about such things, and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mercy of the liberated souls. In this way, please give up your attraction for material existence. Prabhupada in purport, second paragraph says, being in the Grihastha ashram means being under the control of one's wife. One has to give up all this and put himself into the ashram of the Paramhamsa. That is, put himself under the control of the spiritual master. The Paramhamsa ashram is the ashram of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whom the spiritual master has taken shelter. So that ashram we should take shelter. Very nice statements. Then third paragraph beginning Prabhupada says, a Paramhamsa is one who has taken shelter of the Parabrahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one takes shelter of the Paramhamsa spiritual master, gradually through training and instruction, he will become detached from worldly life and ultimately return home back to Godhead. So taking shelter of spiritual master means what? Training and instruction. So how much we are getting trained, we have to see. How many instructions we receive and follow them and accordingly getting trained. Disciple means discipline. Toward the end, in the middle of that fourth paragraph, Prabhupada says, real knowledge means understanding the miserable condition of material life. That is real knowledge. Then Mishwana Chakti Thakur says, Hamsa Sharanam refers to the cottage in which saintly persons live. So for Grihasthas, it will mean kind of Vanaprastha ashram within Guru's whatever observation. Then 56 to 59 talks about further questions by Prachini Bari. The king replied, my dear Brahman, whatever you have said, I have heard with great attention, and considering all of it, have come to the conclusion that the Acharyas teachers who engaged me in fruitive activity and did not know this confidential knowledge. If they were aware of it, why did they not explain it to me? So he's realizing all those teachers who engaged me in this ritualistic sacrifices, they did not know all this confidential knowledge. So Vishwanath Thakur says that Prachini is saying, from today, you are my guru. Because these gurus, I abandon them. Means I will not listen to them. And so he is giving up his earlier gurus, guides, and saying, from today, you are my guru. In the purport, Prabhupada says, real knowledge means searching out Krishna. Vedescha sarve raham eva vedya. All Vedic knowledge is meant for searching out Krishna, because Krishna is the origin of everything. 57. My dear Brahman, there are contradictions between your instructions and those of my spiritual masters who engage me in fruitive activities. I now can understand the distinction between devotional service, knowledge, and renunciation. I had some doubts about them, but you have now very kindly dissipated all these doubts. I can now understand how even the great sages are bewildered by the real purpose of life. Of course, there is no question of sense gratification. So it's very clear. That is the power of pure devotee, like Narad Muni. 58. The results of whatever a living entity does in this life are enjoyed in the next life. 59. The expert knowers of the Vedic conclusion say that one enjoys or suffers the results of his past activities. But practically, it is seen that the body that performed the work in the last birth is already lost. So, how is it possible to enjoy or suffer the reactions of that work in a different body? So, he's asking a question. Towards the end, Prabhupada says in the purport, last line, the soul is carried by the subtle body continuously until liberated from gross material bondage. Then 60 to 79 talks about transmigration of the soul. The great sage Narada continued, 60th. The living entity acts in a gross body in this life. This body is forced to act by the subtle body composed of mind, intelligence, and ego. After the gross body is lost, the subtle body is still there to enjoy or suffer. Thus, there is no change. So that person said, na kind of, he said, Prachini Bari said, how he did something in previous life, now next life he suffers, body is lost. So no, the person is the same because person enjoys through subtle body. So subtle body continues to the next body. 61st. The living entity while dreaming gives up the actual living body. Through the activities of his mind and intelligence, he acts in another body, either as a god or a dog. After giving up this gross body, the living entity enters either an animal body or a demigod's body on this planet or another planet. He thus enjoys the results of the actions of his past life. Prabhupada in purport. Although the root of distress and happiness is the mind, intelligence, and ego, a gross body is still required as an instrument for enjoyment. So the desires and the enjoying tendencies are there in that, but for actually doing it, the gross body is also required. Liberation means getting out of the clutches of the subtle body. Because gross body, even if we are liberated, we are bound to get another gross body. So liberation actually means to get out of the subtle body, clutches of the subtle body. In the second paragraph, after Janma Karma, Prabhupada quotes, the Krishna consciousness movement is educating people to enlighten the subtle body. So how much we need to observe other subtle body, especially as leaders, we need to watch the subtle body of our subordinates. And in fact, ours also, by hearing Guru Vani. So, and then guide them accordingly. Oh, gross body training happens very quickly. It doesn't take much time, 1, 2, 3, 5 years. And devotees quickly pick up getting up early in the morning, wearing dhoti, kurta, tilak. All that happens very quickly. But subtle body problems don't go away for lifetimes. When the mind, intelligence, and ego are purified, all the active senses of the living entity become spiritual. 62nd. The living entity labors under the bodily conception of I am this, I am that. My duty is this, and therefore I shall do it. These are all mental impressions, and all these activities are temporary. Nonetheless, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity gets a chance to execute all his mental concoctions. Thus, he gets another body. So, all these mental concoctions have to be given up. 2.55 Krishna's answer to Sthita Pragya's characteristics. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmannet vatmana tushtas sthitapragyas tadochate. Being situated in oneself, one's true identity, not all these mental concoctions born out, all these material desires born out of mental concoctions. In the purport, Prabhupada says, when the gross body is finished, the plans of the living entity are taken by the mind to the next body. Next paragraph beginning. Karma is the aggregate of fruitive activities conducted to make this body comfortable or uncomfortable. Third. I hope I can go a little longer. No problem. We'll try to complete a few more. One can understand the mental or conscious position of a living entity by the activities of the two kinds of senses, the knowledge acquiring senses and executive senses. Similarly, by the mental condition or consciousness of a person, one can understand his position in the previous life. So this is also a very important thing. Very deep. Actually, I'm going very fast because of lack of time, but all these are very powerful things, especially as leaders, as counselors, as guides. These are all the things we need to know about ourselves and others also. Prabhupada saying the activities of the gross body are reactions of the mental condition. Just like face is the index of the mind. From the face, we can understand what is happening in his mind. Similarly, one's actions in this life reveal what all he has done in previous lives. So it's not so easy to give up that conditioning. It is very much there. By training, it can be overcome. With all the negative things can be removed, but it requires thorough training, like thorough overhauling, as Prabhupada said. Next, 64th. Sometimes we suddenly experience something that was never experienced in the present body by sight or hearing. Sometimes we see such things suddenly in dreams. All of us have good experience of this in dreams, and we are wondering what was that? Never seen or heard in life. But in previous life, we have had some experience of that sort. Therefore, my dear king, the living entity who has a subtle mental covering develops all kinds of thoughts and images because of his previous body. Take this from me as certain. There is no possibility of concocting anything mentally without having pursued it in the previous body. It's very powerful. So whatever we are having that, it is not exactly concoction from nowhere. Some experience of previous life, is the background to that. Prabhupada in purport after Iha Yasya Haridasya, one who is always serving the Lord is to be considered already liberated. That verse only. 66th. O king, all good fortune unto you. The mind is the cause of the living entities attaining a certain type of body in accordance with his association with material nature. According to one's mental composition, one can understand what the living entity was in his past life, as well as what kind of body he will have in the future. Thus, the mind indicates the past and future bodies. So, both one can, just like all of us, the kind of body we have, thick, small, tall, big, whatever the complexion, the nose, eyes, from all this, our previous life can be known, what we might have done. And similarly, now what we are doing according to our future life also can be predicted. So, and how to get out of the whole cycle of birth and death, that is also being revealed. 66th. Okay, in the purport Prabhupada says, the mind is the index of information about one's past and future lives. If a man is a devotee of the Lord, he cultivated devotional service in his previous life. Similarly, if one's mind is criminal, he was criminal in his past life. In the same way, according to the mind, we can understand what will happen in the future life also. So sometimes we may feel that shloka like, what do you, antagat, esham tu antagatam papam, jananam punya karmanam, te dvando moha nirmukta, bhajante mam dridavataha. Those people who acted piously in previous life and in this life, they are free from all dualities and they take shelter of me with firm determination. So we may feel that, oh, I have not been so pious. I have been sinful and all that. I have not acted piously. So now we can act piously. Now is the time. If we feel humbly, honestly, that was the case, I was not so pious. So now we can. And supreme piety is to follow Hari Guru Vaishnava's instruction. And then we will also develop that stage. We will overcome anarthas, we will overcome illusions, dvandva, moha, etc. And then we can be engaged with Drudha Vrata, determination in devotional activity, and we can reach perfection by Lord's grace. Everything is possible in this one life, if at all one is sincere. That's possible. Vishwanath Chakra Thakur's purport is also very nice for this 66th verse. The present mental states inform us of the past and future inauspicious and auspicious bodies of the jiva. The mind alone indicates the previous bodies of man by his display of ferocity, peacefulness, miserliness, and generosity. This is all because of the previous life and all that. The present mind indicates he was this type of person previously. It also indicates what his future body will be. By seeing his knowledge and renunciation in the present body, one understands that he had control of his senses and mind in a previous body, and that he will not be born in the future. Na bhavishyataha, that word is coming in 66th verse only. He will be liberated. So this much can be indicated, it can be predicted. How? By seeing his knowledge and renunciation in the present body, one understands that he had control of his senses and mind in a previous body, and that he will not be born in the future. See, so when we see some devotees like that in amongst us, so we have to know he has done a lot in the past, and plus current ISKCON scenario, Guru Parampara strength also he's having with him. So he is not going to take birth again. He is with us for this one life, and then he will go back to Godhead. So that all can be predicted. In Marathi, there is saying, I think it's there in other, मुलाचे पाय पाळण्यात दिसतात, बच्चों के पाँव पालने में दिखते हैं. So the same thing. That is not just for that one life. It is for many life, previous lives, at least previous life, this life, and future life, or previous lives, this life, and future lives. All can be also predicted well. It's a complete science, as Narad Muni is revealing over here to King Prachini Parishad. 67th. Sometimes in a dream, we see something never experienced or heard or of it in this life. But all these incidents have been experienced at different times, in different places, and in different conditions. That example of gold, I think that comes, I think here. Prabhupada gives, no? The gold and mountain, and then both combined, we say golden mountain. But actually, we have experience of all. Then mind clubs it. 68. The mind of the living entity continues to exist in various gross bodies, and according to one's desires for sense gratification, the mind records different thoughts. In the mind, these appear together in different combinations. Therefore, these images sometimes appear as things never seen or never heard before. So all this is there. In the purport, Prabhupada says, unless one is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, material desires will come and go. That is the nature of the mind, thinking, feeling, willing. As long as the mind is not engaged in meditation on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the mind will desire so many material enjoyments. So sometimes we, as brahmacharis also, we see so many material desires. I want to enjoy and so many things. But we have to know this is how and what has happened earlier. And the thing is, remedy is with me right now also, meditating on the Supreme Lord continuously. I have to just take shelter of the process, and within the process of a person who is well situated, namely my spiritual master. He is the one for whom Krishna is the only beloved personality. So if I take shelter of him, I will be able to easily overcome all my difficulties. Prabhupada said the mind is the platform onto which all desires come and go. So desires will come, desires will go. We don't have to worry so much if they are very dangerous desires. If the regulative principles ordered by the spiritual master are followed rigidly, the mind will gradually be trained to desire nothing but the service of Krishna. Such training is the perfection of life. Amazing. So we have to follow rigidly. So what are the regulative principles? Guru is saying that we have to hear regularly. Otherwise, we won't know. Otherwise, think for regulative principles, no meditating, no gambling, no six, no. That is there. But 64 regulative principles also Guru speaks very extensively. So that the disciple will get trained. So one should be always eager to get trained by the spiritual master. That is a sincere disciple. Not that I took initiation, I know my guru says this. No, no, no. Guru, why is he not stopping to speak now? Because he knows the disciple is not trained. That's why he continuously speaks. So I have to continuously hear him. If I was trained, Guru would have stopped speaking. No, he continues because he knows there is a need to train my disciple. Then 69th, Krishna consciousness means constantly associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in such a mental state that the devotee can observe the cosmic manifestation exactly as the Supreme Personality of Godhead does. So what, when it's not just seeing with Charma Chakshu, seeing with Jnana Chakshu, Shastra Chakshu. What is Shastra Chakshu? The way Krishna sees the world. He has revealed it. So when we are sufficiently done with it or doing with it, then we would develop that Shastra Chakshu, and then we will see the whole cosmic manifestation the way Krishna sees. Such observation is not always possible, but it becomes manifest exactly like the dark planet known as Rahu, which is observed in the presence of the full moon. So this is analogy given, like when on, let's say, Pratipada, we see moon, very thin, what do you call that? Crescent moon. But if you observe carefully, you can see the full moon also, but not illuminated. Illuminated part is only this, and the other part is dark portion. And if you wait some more time, 14 more days, then you will see full moon also, fully blossomed, shining moon. So similarly, we can also do that. Always seeing the way the Lord is seeing, exactly the way Lord sees. Such observation is not always possible, but it becomes manifest exactly like the dark planet known as Rahu, which is observed in the presence of the full moon. Karmani Nirdhati Prabhupada says in purport, when a person is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, his stockpile of material desires is minimized. Indeed, the desires no longer fructify in the form of gross bodies. Instead, the stockpile of desires becomes visible on the mental platform by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So sometimes through dreams, all those wrong desires might get fructified. For us, this is Krishna's very special mercy, because how many of us would like to take few more bus and undergo all those fulfillment of material desires? Would you? No, no question. So Krishna sometimes in the subtle body, through the dreams, he may do that. So one can certainly purify himself more and more, but all this will come. Let us finish it off in this life by Krishna's grace. Proper in the next paragraph says, it then appears that this Rahu planet exists somewhere near the orbit of moon, because Rahu engulfs moon. Those who are supposed to be going to moon may actually be going to the invisible planet Rahu. And last line of the purport, because a Krishna conscious person does not have to accept a future gross body, his recorded desires are fulfilled in a dream. How many of you have unfulfilled dreams, desires? Yeah, so Krishna has recorded that he has this. So through dream, they will be given shape, even good and bad, both. So no need to worry, because good desires also you'll have to take one more birth. So better not have another body. So Krishna will do all that through dream. We therefore sometimes find things in a dream never experienced in our present life. So one thing is past life things are also there, experiences. They will also come in the form of some dream combination and all that. And another thing is we have so many desires which Krishna has recorded. He doesn't want to give us another body. So that also will be fulfilled through those dreams. That is Krishna's mercy. In either case, it is mercy of the Lord. One should not be fed up with it. 70 okay, still continues. As long as there exists the subtle material body composed of intelligence, mind, senses, sense objects, and the reactions of the material qualities, the consciousness of false identification and its relative objective, the gross body exists as well. Purport: the desires in the subtle body of mind, intelligence, and ego cannot be fulfilled without a gross body composed of the material elements earth, water, air, fire, ether. When the gross material body is not manifest, the living entity cannot factually act in the modes of material nature. So we had this earlier. So now, whatever body we have got, okay, no need to worry, lament. 71. When the living entity is in deep sleep, when he faints, when there is some great shock on account of severe loss at the time of death, or when the body temperature is very high, the moment of the life air is arrested. At that time, the living entity loses knowledge of identifying the body with the self. So this identifying is not is there, but in some cases it is lost. When we are in coma, faint. Anybody has experience undergoing whatever that unconsciousness? Yeah, I also have. So in that time, we don't identify with the body. But again, when you come to consciousness, you will. Similarly, in the night also, when we sleep, we may not identify with our body, or we don't. We identify with something else only, if at all dreamy state. So very amazingly, Krishna has arranged all this. Prabhupada in purport says, when we sleep, we forget the identity of the material body, and when we awake, we forget the identity of the subtle body. How amazing. Even when we don't know some of the dreams, we are dreaming, but when we get up, we don't remember them. Some dreams we remember very strongly, but some we don't. So in gross body life, daytime, we don't remember subtle body experiences, and in the subtle body nighttime, we don't realize our material body identifications. Next, 72. When one is youth, all the 10 senses and mind are completely visible. However, in the mother's womb or in the boyhood state, the sense organs and the mind remain covered, just as the full moon is covered by the darkness of the dark moon night. So it is not that the child is very innocent. No. He may appear innocent. There is lust in him, pride, greed, anger, everything is there. At an appropriate time, it will manifest. So just like that moon may look crescent moon, but it is full moon. Now currently not visible. Soon it will. Maybe you can read the purport. What to do or skip it because of lack of time. I wish to complete the chapter, and hopefully in 10-15 minutes it should over with the speed. Only this purport was nice. Okay, chalo, we'll skip it then. You read it yourself. Continue. अच्छा प्रसाद नहीं लिया आपने? इधर प्लेट लेके आ जाओ ना. Those who are 3 timers, they can bring here only. है ना, enough space is there. 10-15 minutes में हो जाना चाहिए. But those who have to take prasad, they can bring plate here only na. Okay, chalo, we'll have it short. Purport Prabhupada says, because of undeveloped senses, a child, a boy will not see young woman in his dreams. Isn't it? No child will tell you, I saw a young, beautiful girl. I was wandering with her in the gardens. No, he will never speak like that. But after puberty, he doesn't have to speak. He will not speak. So many things he will see in the dream. Towards the end, unless the senses of the gross body are developed, they will not act on the subtle body. Isn't it like that same child's example? This is very deep science. This has to be studied very thoroughly. 73rd. When the living entity dreams, the sense objects are not actually present. However, because one has associated with the sense objects, they become manifest. Similarly, the living entity with undeveloped senses does not cease to exist materially, even though he may not be exactly in contact with the sense object. So example, I think Prabhupada gives here or ahead. Somebody maybe a young man may be dreaming of a girl and have union with her, and then he will have loss of semen, though there is no woman in actuality. But because he's thinking of sense object, the sense object is present for him, and it can be seen through gross effect of losing semen. Prabhupada towards the end in the purport, the three modes of material nature may not be manifest in the subtle body, but the contamination of the three modes remains conserved, and in due course of time, it becomes manifest. So immediately it may not be. That's why Thinking with the enjoying mentality and seeing some sense object is very dangerous. Immediately there may not be some effect sometimes, but later on it will develop because the contemplation will happen. Dhyato Vishan Pumsa. 74. The five sense objects, the five sense organs, the five knowledge acquiring senses, and the mind are the 16 material expansions. These combine with the living entity and are influenced by the three modes of material nature. Thus, the existence of the conditioned soul is understood. Prabhupada in the purport, second paragraph. The living entity and this combination of elements combine to form what is called Jiva Bhuta, the conditioned soul that struggles hard within material nature. So we are jivas, but then when we what you call come in these bhutas, Pancha Mahabhut, and identify with them, then we are called a Jiva Bhuta. The living entity and this combination of elements combine to form what is called Jiva Bhuta. 75th. By virtue of the processes of the subtle body, the living entity develops and gives up gross bodies. This is known as the transmigration of the soul. Thus, the soul becomes subjected to different types of so-called enjoyment, lamentation, fear, happiness, and unhappiness. So, identifying with the subtle body is not good for us. As soon as we stop identifying with subtle body, and then gross body anyway is going to go away. That is not within our hand. One point of time, it will be taken away. And identification with the subtle body stopped, no more birth, no question of second birth. Next, 77. The caterpillar transports itself from one leaf to another by capturing one leaf before giving up the other. Similarly, according to his previous work, the living entity must capture another body before giving up the one he has. This is because the mind is the reservoir of all kinds of desires. So this is the secret. All of us have seen caterpillar. First, it will be like this, and then it will pick up and it will keep in the next leaf. Then he will pick up the back portion. So all of us, because of our desires stored in subtle body, we keep our next gross body fixed. We already make it, and then we give up this gross body. So one who has no more material desires, material desires in the subtle body, he will not keep that next gross body is not decided only. He will go back to God. In the second paragraph, middle, Prabhupada says, a person may be enjoying the body of a prime minister or a president, but when he understands that he will be forced to accept the body of a dog or hog, he chooses not to leave the present body. Therefore, he lies in a coma many days before death. This has been experienced by many politicians at the time of death. So see so much. They are revealed that you will become dog in next life, and they don't want it. And this life is very good. Life as a president, prime minister, whatever it is. So they don't want to give up. So they will remain in coma for several days before death. It's very dangerous. Next body is horrible. This body is nice, but you are not supposed to be here. So coma, experience coma. 78. As long as we desire to enjoy sense gratification, we create material activities. When the living entity acts in the material field, he enjoys the senses, and while enjoying the senses, he creates another series of material activities. In this way, the living entity becomes entrapped as a conditioned soul. So how dangerous situation we have put ourselves into. Very dangerous. Completely in mesh. Just can't think of coming out only. So that's why the remedy is hearing Guru and acting on his instruction at every moment of life. Then all this material sansar will be wound up. Otherwise, the way it is revealing in this translation, as long as we desire to enjoy sense gratification, we create material activities. And when the living entity acts in the material field, he enjoys the senses, and while enjoying the senses, he creates another series of material activities. This way, the living entity becomes entrapped as a condition. So this cycle has to be broken. Prabhupada says, while in the subtle body, we create many plans to enjoy sense gratification. These plans are recorded in the spool of one's mind as bija, the root of fruitive activities. The conditioned life, the living entity creates a series of bodies one after another, and this is called karma bandhana. 79. You should always know that this cosmic manifestation is created, maintained, and annihilated by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, everything within the cosmic manifestation is under the control of the Lord. To be enlightened by this perfect knowledge, one should always engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. So, if you take in a reverse way, if you're always engaged in devotional service of the Lord, you will have understanding that everything is under the control of the Lord only. Everything created, maintained, destroyed is everything by the will and sanction of the Lord. Prabhupada said that everything is moving by the will of the Supreme. This consciousness is called as Krishna consciousness. So if we are practicing very sincerely, we'll be very clear with this. And after 79th, he says that 1A, 1B, of which 1A we already discussed. 1B or 1A, 1B, purport Prabhupada says, this is 799. 1B I'm talking. Vijay Dhwaj Tirtha or Acharya, he has told. So 1B, what we already discussed, but purport, a living entity must be merciful to other living entities if he wishes to make progress in self-realization. Daya Jiveshu. Ahead he says, if one realizes that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, but does not preach it, his realization is imperfect. See the words. See, we have realized that I am eternal servant of Krishna. So many times we tell others, Jivara Swarupa hai, Krishna Nitya Das. I am Krishna Das only. But if you don't not preach it, our realization will be imperfect. That's why how important it is to preach. You find anyone, nobody is there, you in the campus, so many people come, go and preach to them. You're not body, we are spirit, soul, we are Krishna's devotees, this, that. Keep speaking. Because if you don't preach, your realization will be imperfect. And little ahead, he says, people who do not preach are criticized. This Nirjan Bhajan and all these Babas, Dushtaman Tumi Kisara Vaishnav, all that. Prabhupada says he condemns many Vaishnavas sit in Vrindavan, do not preach. They try to imitate Haridas Thakur. That is not good. So ours is Goshtanandi process. So we have to do it thoroughly. Now coming back to 80th, the great sage Maitra continued, the supreme devotee, the great saint Narada, thus explained to King Prachinibhari the constitutional position of the supreme personality of Godhead and the living entity. After giving an invitation to King, Narada Muni left to return to Siddhaloka. So this 80 to 82 is renunciation of King Prachinibhari. We can see the powerful effect of the powerful Narada Muni's preaching, that he is going to leave, Prachinibhari is going to leave. Prabhupada says Siddhaloka is considered to be one of the satellites of Brahmaloka. From this verse, it appears that the great sage Narada is an inhabitant of Siddhaloka, although he travels to all the planetary system. 81st, in the presence of his ministers, the saintly King Prachinibhari left orders for his sons to protect the citizens. He then left home and went off to undergo austerities in a holy place known as Kapilashram. So you can see why ministers in the presence of ministers? Why in the presence of ministers? Because sons are not there. No? Prachetas are still there only. So he is leaving whatever thing to them, they will pass it on to son. Prabhupada in the purport middle says, it is very difficult to rule citizens in a kingdom without organizing this Varnashram Dharma. So because the Varnashram Dharma was there earlier, and he is directly telling them what is to be told to his sons. Now if we today any politician does that, they will पूरा गुमराह कर देंगे. आपके पिताजी ने बोला कि आपको एक साधु की तरह रहना चाहिए, आपका सब जो किंगडम है हम संभालेंगे, आप चिंता मत करो, पूरा लूट लेंगे उसको. क्योंकि वर्णाश्रम है ही नहीं, सब thieves and rogues on the top political positions. 82nd, having undergone austerities and penances at Kapilashram, King Prachinibhari attained full liberation from all material designations. He constantly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord and attained a spiritual position qualitatively equal to that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jai, he has reached perfection. Just like by Narad Muni's heavy preaching, Dhritarashtra began little late, less time, but he became at least the Dhira. He could not become Narottama. But here is a perfection of somebody becoming Narottama also, Prachinibhari, by the blessings of Narad Muni. 83rd and 285 is Phalashruti. 3 verses. My dear Vidura, one who hears this narration concerning the understanding of living entity spiritual existence as described by the great sage Narada, or one who relates it to others, will be liberated from the material, from the bodily conception of life. Haribol, all of us, hopefully. You heard it, na? So you are given blessing. 84th. This narration spoken by the great sage Narada is full of transcendental fame of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mukunda Yashasa. Etad Mukunda Yashasa Bhuvanam Punanam. Consequently, this narration, when described, certainly sanctifies this material world. It purifies the heart of the living entity and helps him attain his spiritual identity. One who relates this transcendental narration will be liberated from all material bondage and will no longer have to wander within this material world. Rebol, one more blessing. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this story glorifies Mukunda by showing how bhakti is superior to karma. Bhakti superior to karma. He was engaged in karma, our Prachini Bari. And Narad Muni very powerfully established bhakti superior to karma. Prabhupada in the purport last line says sometimes spiritual activities are also called parameshtham. The word explained there in the third line. And Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur gives two more meanings. Parameshtham means activities of the Lord. And then he says can also mean glorified by Brahma. Brahma's name is Parameshti. So Parameshtham means that which is glorified by Brahma. How bhakti is superior. In the last verse, 85th. The allegory of King Puranjan described herein, according to authority, was heard by me from my spiritual master, and it is full of spiritual knowledge. If one can understand the purpose of this allegory, he will certainly be relieved from the bodily conception and will clearly understand life after death. Although one may not understand what transmigration of the soul actually is, one can fully understand it by studying this narration. Such nice thing. So then Prabhupada talks about Striyashramaha, the word Evam Striyashramaha Pumshash. The word Striya means along with the wife is significant. The male and female living together constitute the sum and substance of material existence. The attraction between male and female in this material world is very strong. Little ahead. However, when one fully understands spiritual life, his attraction for the opposite sex is completely vanquished. So for Grihasthas in Vanaprastha ashram, they should be able to see that. Similarly, Brahmachari, as he progresses also, he should also be able to see that. Because Grihasthas have grossly their wives, a woman next to them. And for a Brahmachari, it will be subtly there. For Grihastha, subtly also there, and grossly is also there. But for Brahmachari, it will be subtly there. So as the life progresses in Krishna consciousness, this is what should happen. So Grihastha should be able to, ideally enter in Vanaprastha ashram, so grossly away from wife. And in that Vanaprastha stage, the thoughts of wife also should keep on reducing. And for Brahmachari, who in the beginning days had thoughts of women, if at all, and whatever degree, so they should also keep reducing like that. So when one fully understands spiritual life, his attraction for opposite sex is completely vanquished. Because attachment to opposite sex, it is not just for Prabhu for Mataji, means husband for wife. It is for wife to husband also. Nobody should be attached to opposite sex, because that is what will decide next material existence, next body. So that should not be there. Prabhupada quotes Pumsa Striya Mithuni Bhavam. Then he says, everyone comes to this material world attracted to sense gratification. And the hard knot of sense gratification is the attraction between male and female. By this attraction, one becomes overly attached to material world in terms of Graha, Kshetra, Sutta, Apta, Vitta, that is homeland, children, friends, money, and so forth. Thus, one becomes entangled in the bodily conception of I and mine. However, if one understands the story of King Puranjan and understands how, by sexual attraction, Puranjan became a female in his next life, one will also understand the process of transmigration. So one will be relieved of it. One practices nicely. Okay, that is the end. Sorry for going too fast and going over time also. But I hope you captured some of the things at least. This is a very deep subject matter. The concepts Narad Muni has introduced one after other, very high class. Very high class. Afterwards, though for exam we do prepare, but we prepare in a different way. But afterwards, please go through the all purports of Prabhupada, this entire purport. We did not go through whole thing. So it will be very nourishing. It will empower us and it will ensure no more next body. You are not entitled to have next body for sure. 108% guarantee by Acharyas as well as Prabhupada. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शिल प्रभुपाद की जय, समवेत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी।